Chapter 2159 Time Fruit. With so many forks, some are safe and some are dangerous, but Yang Kai didn't know how to choose for a while, so he could only grit his teeth and choose one to get in. And at the same time as he disappeared, Lan Xuan and Xiao Chen also broke away from the phantom formation, and Yang Kai's back just happened to be printed in Lan Xuan's field of vision. Huh, Lan Xuan's eyes showed strange color. It's faster than me. What? Xiao Chen followed behind Lan Xuan, but didn't notice the situation ahead, so he couldn't help asking. It's nothing. Lan Xuan shook her head, turned around and took a look, and found that the two of them were only 10 steps away from the previous entrance, and the surrounding area was empty, and there was no trace of other people. She knew very well the power of the phantom formation. He didn't bother to care about other people's lives, so he said to Xiao Chen, "Go on." After a while, the two came to the front of the fork. Lan Xuan deliberately chose a different path from Yang Kai, and walked in. Although there are many forks here, the light is not dim. There are some luminous strange stones dotted around the forks, emitting a soft light. Yang Kai radiated his spiritual mind to 20 feet away from his body. While being alert to possible dangers, he groped forward. Not long after walking, Yang Kai suddenly showed a strange expression, and listened to the sound of fighting in front of him, and there seemed to be a trace of bloody aura. Startled in his heart, he quickly withdrew his divine thoughts, held his breath, and slowly walked forward. After a while, he came to an empty hall. Although the area of this hall was not as small as the place where everyone entered at the beginning, it was not too small. The situation in the main hall is clear at a glance, and there is not much peculiarity, but in the very center, there is a pool, which is more than 4 or 5 feet deep, and I don't know what was originally contained in it. Anyway, it is empty at the moment. And at a place on the left side of the hall, there is a long table with 2 spiritual fruits placed on it. I don't know how many years the spirit fruit has been kept here, but it still looks as fresh as new, and even exudes a strong fragrance. The spirit fruit is not big, just the size of a fist, and it looks like 2 ripe peaches. Salivating. This is year's fruit. Yang Kai's eyes lit up, and he immediately recognized what this spirit fruit was. He had obtained the jade slips left by Gongsunmu, the 3rd disciple of Emperor Miao Dan, at the bottom of Yuanding Mountain. The jade slips recorded in detail the types, names and appearances of various rare spiritual herbs in the star world, as well as their refining methods. Yang Kai had already memorized the contents of the jade slip by heart, so there was no reason why he didn't recognize it. The moon fruit is something that only exists in the Temple of the Moon. At this moment, Yang Kai suddenly realized. Although he knew about the fruit of the years before, he really didn't connect it with the Temple of Time, but now after seeing the fruit of the years, he understood it all at once. The Suiyu fruit has a very strange effect, and it does not have any substantial help for the cultivation of warriors. But even so, it does not hinder its rarity and preciousness. It is recorded in the jade slips left by Gongsunmu that Suiyugo has 2 diametrically opposite effects. One is to rejuvenate people and make an old man become youthful in a short period of time. The other is like the poison of time. It can make young and strong people grow old in the blink of an eye. If one does not know how to distinguish the different Suiyu Guo, no one would dare to take it rashly. Not to mention whether the second effect is useful or not, the first effect will definitely drive countless warriors crazy, especially female warriors, who doesn't want to be young forever, who doesn't want to be in the mood for love. But no matter how high their cultivation base is, no matter how exquisite their face-preserving skills are, the ruthless carving knife of time will still leave some marks on their bodies. These marks will become more pronounced over time. But it will be different if there is a fruit that can rejuvenate people. Even an old woman can be beautiful in the blink of an eye. Of course, this is not to say that Suiyu Guo is only useful for women. For those martial artists whose time limit is approaching, but there is no hope of breaking through, Suiyugo is undoubtedly a good medicine to increase their lifespan. It can completely allow the martial artist to return to the physical state of decades or even hundreds of years ago, which is equivalent to letting the body out of thin air. People live longer by decades or even hundreds of years. The value of this thing is to some extent more precious than Dabao. After Yang Kai recognized the year's fruit, he immediately regained his energy. If this kind of spiritual fruit is in the hands of others, he doesn't know what effect it can exert, but it will be terrible if it is in his hands. He is an alchemist, and he can use the time fruit as the main material to refine a furnace of time. Dan. This is almost an extinct panacea, but it represents huge capital and wealth. Yang Kai quietly swallowed his saliva, turned his eyes, and then turned his attention to the center of the hall. There, one person and one monster are fighting. The fighting sound heard by Yang Kai before was also made by them. The person is Kong Qi from Qiao Chamber of Commerce. And that monster is a blood-red color, like a colossus made of blood, with a disgusting bloody smell all over its body. This blood monster has a human-shaped upper body, a round head, 2 arms, and a flowing top-shaped lower body. It rushes about in the hall, and when it swings its fists, it is wrapped in a strong bloody smell, which seems to be able to move the air. All blow up. The light of source power bloomed on Kong Qi's body, his expression was dignified, and he was busy running for his life. From time to time, he used moderately powerful moves to hit the blood monster, as if he was testing the opponent's weakness. Warriors like Kong Qi are generally cautious people. After encountering a strong enemy, they will not take action without absolute certainty. Before Yang Kai came, Kong Qi had already dealt with this blood monster for a long time, and now he had basically figured out the opponent's routines and tricks, and was only looking for an opportunity to give this blood monster a fatal blow. Why did you come to the same road with this guy? Yang Kai hid in the dark, his brows were tightly frowned, he just chose one of the previous dozen forked roads, but he didn't want someone to get there first. But fortunately Kong Qi walked in front of him, otherwise Yang Kai would be dealing with the blood monster at this moment. Glancing at the battlefield, Yang Kai cast his eyes on the 2 years' fruits on the long table, and a despicable thought came to his mind uncontrollably. While this guy attracts the attention of the blood monster, secretly take the year's fruit going, isn't that too much? Before this, Yang Kai had never had any dealings with Kong Qi, and there was no kindness or grievance between them, so when this idea came up, Yang Kai didn't have any embarrassment. Thinking of this, he immediately cast the void secret technique, restrained all his aura, and then walked over there cautiously. After the void secret technique was cast, Yang Kai did not really exist in the void, but completely isolated his own breath, so that others could not spy on his existence with divine sense, unless the spy's divine sense the thought is strong enough to pierce the void. The only weakness of this secret technique is that others can see themselves with naked eyes. The hall is not too big. If Yang Kai moves too fast, he will obviously expose his whereabouts, but he is also a cautious person, and only waited until Kong Qi and the blood monster had all entered the blind spot of vision before suddenly exerting force, rushed forward. Because there is no need to worry about being noticed by other people's divine sense, Yang Kai's move can be said to be unscrupulous. In the blink of an eye, he rushed to the long table and grabbed the 2-time fruits as soon as he reached out, intending to put them into the space ring. Unexpectedly, at this moment, a barrier like a light curtain appeared above the long table, directly blocking Yang Kai's hand in midair. Oops! Yang Kai let out a low voice, knowing that he would no longer be able to sneak around under the noses of others. Sure enough, when the light curtain flickered, Kong Qi and the blood monster who were fighting were all aware of it and cast their gazes over. Kong Qi had a stunned expression on his face, and stared at Yang Kai with wide eyes, as if he didn't expect that someone would be able to attack the pre-ordered spoils without him noticing. He couldn't help teasing. My friend, your cultivation level is not high, but you are quite courageous. So, Yang answered in a low voice, but the internal energy in his body burst out suddenly, and he punched hard, hitting the light curtain on the long table. Now that he had been discovered, he simply snatched it openly and above board. The restriction of this light curtain is indeed extraordinary, and it can still function after countless years, but after bearing Yang Kai's blow, it finally shattered. Yang Kai's eyes were quick, and he grabbed a year's eve fruit with one hand and threw it directly into the space ring. Kong Qi looked angry, and no one would be able to be safe in this situation. He found the 2-time fruits after he came in, but before he could get them, the blood pool in the hall suddenly rolled and condensed quickly into a huge blood monster. Kong Qi had no choice but to fight with this. The blood monsters were fighting, and they only wanted to solve the monster as soon as possible, and then collect the spoils. Unexpectedly, Yang Kai came out halfway, and directly snatched what should belong to him. Roar! And after Sui Yuguo was taken away by Yang Kai, the blood monster, which was already lingering in the rage and hostility, yelled angrily, rushed in front of Yang Kai like crazy, and threw a huge fist at him. This blow, Kong Qi shrank his eyes, showing a slightly horrified expression. He had dealt with this blood monster for a long time just now, thinking that he had figured out the opponent's strength, but he didn't think that the opponent hadn't displayed his full level at all. It can be seen from its attack on Yang Kai that this blood monster is absolutely not as easy to deal with as he imagined. He turned his head to look at Yang Kai again, with a sneer on his face, and said to himself, first level Daoyuan will be killed instantly. In his opinion, even if he wanted to defend against this blow, it would not be easy. The opponent was only a Daoyuan first level, so it was not a matter of being killed in the blink of an eye. Chapter 2160 Money Landing. P.S. I want to hear more of your voices, I want to receive more of your suggestions, now search and pay attention to the WeChat official account, QDread, and give more support to Marshall Peak. Boom. The violent sound, violent energy, and tumbling blood waves flooded the place where Yang Kai stood. Looking for a dead end. Kong Qi looked forward, snorted coldly, and searched carefully in the chaotic area, trying to find the space ring left behind by Yang Kai's death. But there was nothing there. It won't even blow up the space ring, right? Kong Qi's face turned slightly pale. He was not in awe of the strength that this blood monster could display, but felt sorry for the treasure in Yang Kai's space ring, not to mention Yang Kai had something good in the first place, but those two unusual spirit fruits were definitely worth a lot. If Yang Kai's space ring is really blown up by the blood monster, everything in the ring will be exiled into the void, and no one can find it back. Just as he was in a daze, the blood monster roared again, and a blood-red light suddenly radiated from his body, radiating towards the surroundings suddenly. What's going on? Kong Qi frowned, and hurriedly jumped up into the sky to avoid the envelope of the red light. At the same time, the blood light spread, filling the entire hall at once, forming a layer of bright red light curtain, sealing all the entrances and exits. The next moment, at the exit, the bright red light curtain was slightly concave, and a figure appeared strangely, as if it had been ejected. There is still this trick. Yang Kai was stunned, and while speaking, he raised his fist and blasted towards the light curtain. To his surprise, the light curtain looked extremely thin, but it was extremely tenacious. His punch full of strength failed to break it, leaving only a fist mark, and the fist mark was also formed in a very short period of time. Back to normal. Kong Qi, who was floating in midair, suddenly widened his eyes, as if seeing a ghost in daylight, looked at Yang Kai in surprise, and said, "You didn't die." A martial artist at the first level of Daoyuan, under the blow of the blood monster, was unscathed, and escaped to the front of the exit without anyone noticing. If the blood monster was not alert, I don't know what method was used to seal the exit, I'm afraid this guy has already escaped. At that time, the furious blood monster will definitely vent his anger on himself, and the final result is nothing more than that he didn't eat the mutton, and instead caused a commotion. The boy is too sinister and vicious, he is not human at all. After Kong Qi wanted to understand this, he rushed up with anger, wishing to rush down to join hands with the blood monster and beat Yang Kai. Haha, brother Kong, hello. Yang Kai greeted Kong Qi with a little embarrassment. Originally, he could have escaped by feigning death, leaving Kong Qi alone to deal with the blood monster, but unfortunately, the plan couldn't keep up with the changes, and he was finally blocked. Here. I'm such a fart. Kong Qi snorted with a sullen face, but if you die, I'll be fine. He didn't know Yang Kai before, and the other party acted like that just now, so his first impression of Yang Kai was naturally not very good. He felt that this person was treacherous and evil, and he must be a friend, so he naturally didn't have a good face. Yang Kai didn't take it seriously, he smiled and said, "Brother Kong will be out of touch when he said this, as the saying goes, rely on your parents at home, and rely on friends when you go out." "Who is your friend?" Kong Qi interrupted him with his veins exposed before he could finish. "Okay." Yang Kai's expression was serious, and his figure swayed, avoiding the blood monster's one-hit killing move. Since he secretly took the 2 years fruit, the blood monster seemed to regard him as alike killing his father and enemy. He stared at him and attacked him, ignoring Kong Qi at all. The blood monster has a huge body, and Yang Kai is proficient in the power of space, so it is not troublesome to avoid it. The only thing that alerts Yang Kai is the blood energy emanating from this guy's body. This strange blood energy seems to have some kind of erosion, corroding one's own source force, wanting to invade one's own body to cause trouble. While avoiding the attack of the blood monster, he shouted, "Brother Kong, don't you come down to help at this time, kill the blood monster." Kong Qi folded his arms, pretending to be watching the show, and sneered, "Why should I go down to help? It's looking for you, not me. I have nothing to do with your life or death." Brother Kong's words are wrong. Yang Kai shook his head, his voice came intermittently, and the source of his voice seemed a little erratic when moving at a high speed. You can also see that this hall seems to be displayed by it now. What kind of power has been sealed? Unless we kill it, we can't leave here at all. Brother Kong is willing to be trapped here. Kong Chi smiled and said, I can wait until it kills you before making a move. Yang Kai sneered, and said, forgive me, Brother Kong, although you are strong, but it may be difficult to kill this guy single-handedly, right? Kong Chi's face twitched slightly, although he didn't want to admit it. What Yang Kai said was the truth. If it was before Yang Kai came here, Kong Chi still had confidence that he could easily take down this blood monster, but judging from the combat power that the blood monster displayed at this moment, it was obviously hidden before. Even if Kong Chi used his trump card, he would have to pay a price if he wanted to kill the blood monster. What's more, God knows if there is any danger in the future, Kong Chi is not willing to use the power he doesn't want to use until he has to. As soon as he thought of this, Kong Chi's expression froze, he squinted at Yang Kai, and said with deep meaning, Your Excellency doesn't look like an ordinary person. It wasn't until now that he suddenly realized that while Yang Kai was dealing with this blood monster, he was also able to chat with him with ease. This is definitely not something a Daoyuan first-level martial artist can do. Combined with his strange performance before, Kong Chi couldn't help but wonder which sect this guy came from to have such strength. Brother Kong has won the prize. Yang is just a little confident in his body skills. When Yang Kai spoke, he deliberately stopped in midair, and then disappeared suddenly when the blood monster's attack reached his eyes. It's like showing off on purpose. Is it just body skills? Kong Chi muttered to himself, and he didn't mean to ask for proof, but he shouted loudly, It's not impossible for me to take action, but you took it away before. One for you. Yang Kai seemed to know what he was going to say and replied immediately. Just after saying this, something flew over from Yang Kai's side. Kong Chi frowned, reached out to take it, and found that this thing was a spiritual fruit that was placed on the long table before. So refreshing. Yang Kai's move made Kong Chi stunned. Brother Kong, you and I joined forces to kill the enemy, and the spoils are split in half. This shouldn't be a problem, right? You can't want to monopolize. Yang Kai's voice came out again. Kong Chi carefully checked the spirit fruit in his hand, and made sure that it had not been tampered with, and then solemnly put it into the space ring, and said lightly, although you are a bit annoying, since you are so sincerely, then Kong will cooperate with you. Yang Kai grinned. Brother Kong really understands. HMPH, delay it well. It will take a little time for Kong Mo to perform this move. While speaking, Kong Chi's body trembled, and at the same time, he turned his wrist, and a golden copper coin appeared on the palm of his hand. The source force poured in frantically. Seeing this, Yang Kai didn't know what kind of secret technique Kong Chi was about to use, and it was actually a secret technique with the help of a secret treasure. The power must be extraordinary. Kong Chi would do this because of a kind of self-confidence. Although he felt that Yang Kai was an unusual Dao Source 1 level realm, he didn't think Yang Kai was stronger than himself. Yang Kai's ability to deal with the blood monster for so long was only due to his body skills. And because of its outstanding speed, if you want to cause fatal damage to the blood monster, you have to do it yourself. So he did his part to assume the role of the main attacker. Yang Kai didn't let him down as expected. He led the blood monster to sprint around the hall, but he didn't let the blood monster touch a single hair. On the contrary, as his power fluctuated continuously, the blood monster seemed to be feeling uneasy faintly. He became more and more irritable. At a certain moment, the blood monster finally gave up chasing Yang Kai, but turned his head suddenly, stared at Kong Chi with a pair of scarlet eyes, and immediately roared. His huge body turned into a blood-red light, and went straight to Kong Chi. Rush away. Kong Chi shrank his eyes, and almost gave up the condensed secret technique to escape. But at this moment, Yang Kai's figure flashed, and he blocked in front of him all of a sudden, between his fingers flying, golden blood threads flew out, and in an instant, the golden light shone all over the sky, and the countless golden blood threads were entangled with each other. In a very short period of time, a golden shield was condensed. Boom! The blood monster's body collided with the golden blood shield, and its huge body was immediately revealed. It couldn't stop taking a few steps back, and the shield formed by the golden blood threads also dispersed in a rush, turning into countless golden blood again. Bloodshot. Yang Kai stretched out his hand and took it all back into his body. At the same time he asked in a deep voice, Brother Kong, if you are ready, do it quickly, I can't stop it from the second blow. Coincidentally, I just got ready. Kong Chi smiled, and the next moment his expression became solemn. He flicked his fingers, and the golden copper coin in his hand flew out. His hands fluttered like spirit discs, magic spells changed, and he said, money falls to the ground, Hunyuan is one. Shish. That piece of money suddenly turned into 2 in midair, 2 into 4, 4 into 8. In the blink of an eye, a sky full of money emerged. Every piece of money made a buzzing sound as it flew, as if it had a strong contraction ability, constantly becoming bigger and smaller. And under the control of Kong Qi's divine sense, the countless money flew towards the blood monster. The blood monster seemed to have sensed something, and ran back in a hurry, but no matter how fast it was, how could it be faster than this weird secret treasure? In the blink of an eye, the blood monster was overtaken by a piece of money, and the money suddenly became bigger, and it was directly put on the blood monster, tightening tightly, restraining its movements. Immediately afterwards, the second and third coins fell, and they were also inserted into the blood monster's body, making the blood monster's movements even more inconvenient. As more and more money fell, the blood monster was completely imprisoned in a very short period of time. Looking around, the huge blood monster was tightly bound by countless money from head to toe, making it airtight. The novel, Martial Peak, will have more fresh content on the official WeChat platform, and there will also be a 100% lucky draw gift for everyone. Open WeChat now, click the plus sign on the top right, add friends, search public account, Q-Dread, and pay attention, hurry up. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to vote for recommendation and monthly tickets. Your support is my biggest motivation. Mobile phone users, please go to read. Chapter 2161 Parted Ways. Chapter 2161 Parted Ways. P.S. I want to hear more of your voices, I want to receive more of your suggestions, now search and pay attention to the WeChat official account, Q-Dread, and give more support to Martial Peak. At a glance, the arrogant blood monster was strangled into a rice dumpling by the countless golden copper coins. Seeing this scene, Yang Kai had a vague premonition of Kong Qi's next move, and quickly flashed away. Sure enough, at the same time he was taking action, Kong Qi suddenly shouted, "Death!" After the words fell, the sound of humming came out. The countless golden copper coins seemed to have turned into extremely sharp weapons at this moment, and they were suddenly retracted, cutting through the body of the blood monster. The golden light dissipated, and the countless copper coins became one again, which was taken back by Kong Qi. But the blood monster standing in place suddenly collapsed. When it fell, its body turned into pieces as thin as cicada's wings, which turned into pus and flowed all over the ground. The hall was soon filled with a disgusting atmosphere. Vulnerable. Kong Qi fell from midair with a chic look, and snorted coldly. If it weren't for his face turning slightly pale, these words would undoubtedly be more convincing. The move just now obviously consumed him a lot. Yang Kai smiled slightly, and when he was about to say something to him, his face suddenly changed, and he looked around intently. What's wrong? Kong Qi couldn't help frowning when he saw Yang Kai's shock. Brother Kong, haven't you noticed that the restraining force in this room hasn't been eliminated? Yang Kai looked at the entrance and asked. After he mentioned it, Kong Qi looked around belatedly, and wondered, really, why? 2 possibilities. Yang Kai's face sank, he looked at him solemnly, and said, the first possibility, this restriction is in this room itself, and has nothing to do with the blood monster, so even if it dies, the restriction the light curtain didn't disappear either. Then another possibility, Kong Qi is not an idiot, he still doesn't understand what Yang Kai wants to express, he has already looked down while speaking, and said in a low voice, it is not dead. As soon as he finished speaking, the puddle of blood-red pus on the ground started to flow and squirm quickly, all pouring into the pool in the center of the room, like a living thing. Is he still alive? Kong Qi was shocked. The blood monster had already been cut into countless thin slices by his secret technique in the attack of the secret treasure. Even so, it still couldn't be destroyed, which shows its weirdness. This blood pool is the key. Yang Kai seemed to have noticed something. While he was speaking, the blood in the pool of blood was continuously boiling and bubbling, and it looked as if another blood monster was about to be born from it. It's so troublesome. Kong Qi couldn't help taking a few steps back, with a look of jealousy on his face. He suggested, it's better for you and me to work together to break through the restriction, and it's better to go first. Kong Qi really didn't want to fight against this kind of strange, almost unkillable thing. Yang Kai stood where he was, turning a blind eye. Did you hear what I said? Kong Qi frowned. Oh, Yang Kai finally responded, don't be so troublesome, I suddenly have a good idea. What? Kong Qi asked in astonishment. But Yang Kai didn't answer what he meant, but came to stand in front of the blood pond, put on a strange posture, stretched out his big hand, grabbed it forward, and raised his breath at the same time, shouting loudly, "Hai na shen gong, suck it for me." What the hell? The corners of Kong Qi's mouth twitched. He really didn't know what to say about Yang Kai, because with his knowledge and experience, he had never heard the name of a skill like the Haina divine art, so it could be seen that this skill was either Yang Kai's. Kai invented it by himself, or it is an unpopular rubbish technique. But at the next moment, there was a scene that made Kong Qi's eyes pop. The tumbling and wriggling blood in the blood pool was actually sucked up by Yang Kai, and poured into his palm continuously, disappearing without a trace. The blood in the blood pool rolled even more violently, and I could vaguely hear roars and struggles, but because the blood monster's body had not been fully molded, it was powerless to resist, so it could only be pulled by a force, gathering towards Yang Kai's palm. Yang Kai's palm, at this moment, is like a bottomless pit, accepting the bloody water full of evil aura. Kong Qi was dumbfounded, and couldn't help setting off a storm in his heart. He kept rubbing his eyes and told himself that this was an illusion. But no matter how you look at it, the scene in front of you is extremely real. At the same time, Yang Kai maintained that strange posture, in the blind spot of Kong Qi's vision, holding the mysterious boundary orb in the palm of his hand. His divine sense communicated with the Dharma body, "Are you sure you can refine these things?" The Dharma body replied, "There is a huge amount of energy contained in these bloods, which is of great use to me. The heaven-devouring battle art will devour everything, so how can mere blood be an exception? I even practiced Daoyuan warriors turned into two." "Okay, since you said that." Yang Kai didn't say anything more. If the Dharma body hadn't sent him a message suddenly, he wouldn't have used the mysterious boundary orb to suck the pool of blood into the mysterious small boundary. He paused, and warned, "But you should be careful, don't be polluted by those evil distracting thoughts." "I understand." In the hall, Kong Qi's expression changed. He was surprised, shocked, stunned, and so on. But with the passage of time, the pool of blood quickly disappeared along with the vague howling. At the same time, the light curtain that sealed the room was also broken. After the blood was completely sucked dry, Yang Kai drew circles with his hands, lowered his energy to his dantian, and put on a posture of withdrawing his power. After turning around, he didn't forget to pat his stomach and hiccup, as if he was very full. Kong Qi's face turned green. "Brother Kong, it's a happy cooperation. You are indeed an elite from the Seven Luminaries Chamber of Commerce. The money trick just now was an eye-opener for me. It really is a worthy man under the prestigious name. Brother Kong's name is well deserved." At this point, he paused, tilted his head and looked at Kong Qi. "Why do you have such an expression?" The corner of Kong Qi's mouth twitched, and he said, "I just want to ask, is there any abnormal reaction in your body?" "No," Yang Kai replied, walking forward while talking. Kong Qi hurriedly backed away a few steps, raised his hand and said, "Don't come over, just stand there and talk." If Kong Qi's attitude towards Yang Kai was disgusting and vigilant before, it is pure disgust now. He looked at Yang Kai's expression, as if he was looking at a maggot crawling out of a cesspit. Look straight at. "Brother Kong seems to be a clean person." Yang Kai grinned and said meaningfully, "It has nothing to do with whether you like to be clean or not." Kong Qi resisted the discomfort in his abdomen, and replied very quickly, and immediately closed his mouth and nose tightly after speaking. "By the way, there is one more thing to tell Brother Kong. After you go back, you should ask the elders of your Chamber of Commerce to identify the species and efficacy before making a plan. Don't eat it lightly." Yang Kai changed the subject, worried exhorted. After all, although the two-time fruits look the same, they are actually very different. The one Yang Kai handed over to Kong Qi has a little problem. If Kong Qi suffers because of this, then he cannot escape the responsibility. "You don't need to remind me about this kind of thing." Kong Qi frowned, secretly feeling that Yang Kai was a little too concerned. "That's good." Yang Kai grinned and said, "The matter here is over, why don't we?" But before Yang Kai finished speaking, Kong Qi cupped his fists and said, "Farewell." Turning around, he sprang out of the hall. He didn't even bother to talk about such a scene in the future, as if he never wanted to meet Yang Kai again. "Run really fast." Yang Kai looked at the direction where he disappeared, muttered to himself, stood in place and pondered for a moment. He didn't turn around and go back, but followed the direction where Kong Qi left. Although he accidentally chose the same fork as Kong Qi, it must be too late to go back now, and the other warriors probably escaped from the phantom formation and rushed into different forks. Even if he chooses again, he still has to follow the path of others, so he simply doesn't waste time. Behind the main hall, there is still a corridor dotted with strange stones. There seemed to be a few small restrictions on the road, but they were all broken by Kong Qi, who was one step ahead. Yang Kai was safe and sound all the way. After walking for about half an hour, Yang Kai raised his brows suddenly, grinning and smiling at a figure standing in front of him. "Brother Kong, why are you waiting for me here? Are you in any trouble?" "No." Seeing him approaching, Kong Qi felt an inexplicable sense of panic, stepped back a few steps and said, "There is a side road here, which one do you take?" Yang Kai heard the words, looked forward and found that there were indeed another fork, but the number was not many, only 2. As soon as he rolled his eyes, he immediately understood why Kong Qi waited here deliberately. This guy obviously didn't want to go the same way as him, so he just waited here to confirm, and he didn't even hesitate to waste time for it. "Which way does Brother Kong want to go?" Yang Kai asked with a smile. Kong Qi twitched his mouth and said, "Which way you go, I will go the other way." "That's it, I still want to talk to Brother Kong. Don't mention this matter again." Kong Qi stopped hurriedly, and said with a stern expression, "Hurry up and choose, don't dawdle." "Then this way." Yang Kai casually pointed to the fork on the right. As soon as the words fell, Kong Qi flashed his figure and rushed into the fork on the left, and soon disappeared. "This guy is also a wonderful person." Yang Kai stared at the direction where he disappeared, smiled, turned and stepped into the fork on the right. In fact, even if Kong Qi didn't deliberately wait for him here, he would choose a different direction. Although it is good for someone to open the way ahead, if there are any benefits, they will all fall into the hands of others, which is not what Yang Kai wants. Have witnessed. Walking all the way, it was quite peaceful, although there were a few small restrictions, they were all successfully broken by Yang Kai. At a certain moment, a ray of light suddenly appeared in front of him. Yang Kai was shocked, looked up, and found that there was a door-like existence in front of him, and the dazzling light was emanating from that door. The novel, Martial Peak, will have more fresh content on the official WeChat platform, and there will also be a 100% lucky draw gift for everyone. Open WeChat now, click the plus sign on the top right, add friends, search public account, Q Dread, and pay attention, hurry up. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to vote for recommendation and monthly tickets. Your support is my biggest motivation. Mobile phone users, please go to read. Chapter 2162 Time Ladder. P.S. I want to hear more of your voices, I want to receive more of your suggestions, now search and pay attention to the WeChat official account, Q Dread, and give more support to Martial Peak. With the light guiding the way forward, Yang Kai couldn't help speeding up his pace. Not long after, he passed through the gate. As far as the eye can see, it is a white jade staircase that goes straight up, pure white and flawless, with an indeterminate length, and the end of which cannot be seen by sight, and it is difficult for spiritual thoughts to see the end of it. Below this white jade staircase, at the right hand of Yang Kai, there is a stone tablet with a line of large characters engraved on it. Yang Kai looked down and said, "The Ladder of Time." He was bewildered and frowned. He didn't know what kind of mystery was hidden in this row of white jade stairs, and he didn't dare to move forward rashly to avoid any danger. Fortunately, there is no one else here, he thought for a while, and called Hua Qingxi directly. After all, Hua Qingxi is a disciple of the Star God Palace, and she has been preparing for the Land of Four Seasons for a long time, so she should know more about the Temple of Time than he does. Guanghua flashed, and the figure of Hua Qingxi appeared. She looked around blankly at first, as if she didn't know where she was now. "This is the Temple of Time and Moon," Yang Kai said beside him. "Ah," Hua Qingxi responded in astonishment, and immediately said with great joy, "You really found the Temple of Time?" "Well, it was a coincidence, it didn't know why it surfaced." Yang Kai said, "Look at this first." While speaking, Yang Kai pointed to the white jade steps ahead and the stone tablet beside him. Hua Qingxi glanced at the steel, her delicate body trembling. "The Ladder of Time. You really know." Yang Kai looked at his words and immediately understood that she should have some understanding of this time ladder, and immediately said, "Tell me, what's in it?" Hua Qingxi took a deep breath, calmed down the excitement in her heart, and said in a deep voice, "The Ladder of Time is said to contain the Emperor's understanding and control of the power of time. Those who step through this ladder can get the power of time to wash themselves. It is of great benefit to warriors." Her eyes were shining, and she had an expression of eagerness to try. "What if it fails?" Yang Kai frowned. Watching C was stunned for a while, and then said, I don't know, probably there will be some bad consequences. Yang Kai nodded slightly. It seemed that Watching C didn't know too much about this time ladder, but she was better than herself. Seeing Yang Kai meditating, Watching C pursed her red lips and said, whether you want to go up or not, I want to go up and try. Yang Kai glanced at her, smiled and said, since it's an opportunity, I can't miss it. Well, call Ruoxi too. While speaking, he stretched out his hand again and called out Zhang Ruoxi. After explaining the magic of the time staircase to Zhang Ruoxi, Yang Kai looked at her and said, you decide whether you can go up or not, although I don't know what the consequences will be if you fail, but it shouldn't be too wonderful, but don't worry, if you really arrive at that time, I will take you into mysterious Shaoji. I want to go up. To Yang Kai's surprise, Zhang Ruoxi not only did not hesitate at all after hearing this, but also expressed her attitude positively. Watching C pursed her lips and smiled, and said, the little girl is not old, but she is not young. In this case, let's go together. Yang Kai nodded, and said seriously, don't stay too far away from me, otherwise if something happens, I may not have time to accept you into mysterious Shaoji. Zhang Ruoxi nodded nervously. Her face flushed a little because of excitement, but Watching C said with a coquettish smile, then you should follow behind Sister well. Yang Kai glanced at her, sneered, and walked up the white jade steps. Seeing this, Watching C and Zhang Ruoxi also looked solemn, and stepped on side by side. Suddenly, a pure white energy emerged from the white jade steps, turned into clouds, and shrouded the three people's feet, making the three people have an illusion of walking on the clouds. At the same time, Yang Kai's body trembled, and he inexplicably felt a strange force pouring into his body, like a catalyst, washing the source power in his body and the power of consciousness in the sea of consciousness, making the source strength and consciousness become vigorous and solid. This force is inexplicable, as if the years are passing, and with the passage of time, its own strength is also increasing step by step. Obviously it was only a moment, but the three of them felt that it had been a long time. A strange feeling lingers in my heart. Yang Kai glanced left and right, and found that Zhang Ruoxi and Watching C looked safe and sound, making sure that they were all right, and then took another step forward. Feeling more and more intense, Yang Kai's spirit was shaken, and he opened his mind to accept the washing of the power of the years on this ladder, and the power of origin and consciousness became more and more powerful and refined. At the very beginning, Yang Kai still had time to observe the situation of Watching C and Zhang Ruoxi, lest the two of them could not bear the power of the years and any accidents would happen, but as the ladder climbed, Yang Kai gradually immersed himself in this kind of situation. It seems that in the feeling of being extremely slow but rapidly becoming stronger, I was a little unable to extricate myself for a while. This is the power of time. Yang Kai frowned slightly, with an expression of admiration on his face. It's a strange power. It's only a short period of time, but it can make people feel like it's been a long time, and it's like a long time of cultivation. This kind of strange power is even worse than the power of space. And just when his mind was full of thoughts, he suddenly felt an unusual power fluctuation coming from the front. Yang Kai was startled suddenly, restrained his mind and looked up, only to see Zhang Ruoxi walking forward step by step on the 7 or 8 steps in front of him. His clothes were wet with sweat, revealing a beautiful figure. And as she stepped on this step, a layer of energy halo suddenly burst out from within that petite body, and it suddenly spread in all directions. Are you kidding me? Yang Kai nearly popped his eyes. He didn't know when Zhang Ruoxi walked in front of him, and he was ahead of so many steps. That's all. The key is that Zhang Ruoxi clearly broke through a small level just now, and reached the cultivation base of the second level of returning to the void realm. If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, Yang Kai couldn't believe it was true. After all, Zhang Ruoxi just broke through to the realm of the void returning mirror a few days ago, and it took so long to break through to a small level, which is simply unimaginable. Although Yang Kai himself has gained a lot on the ladder of time, it is not as good as Zhang Ruoxi. The little girl is really weird. Yang Kai recalled the day when she was promoted to the void return mirror. The huge figure that emerged from behind was at a loss, and really didn't know what the power of the blood in her body was, which made her promote so fast. Yang Kai opened his mouth, wanting to call Zhang Ruoxi, lest she get too far away from him, but he found that he couldn't say a word no matter what, and couldn't even leave the body, so he was suppressed as soon as he released it. He looked back again, and saw that 6 or 7 steps away from him, Watching C was sweating, trekking hard, with a look of difficulty. The ladder of time is really not a place to test the level of cultivation. If it is to test the level of cultivation, it should be watching Si who walks in the front, and Zhang Ruoc Si, who has the lowest cultivation level, will never be able to turn. Yang Kai pondered for a while, and waited for watching Si in place. In his opinion, watching Si probably couldn't hold on at the earliest, and he had to take her back to mysterious Shaoji at the right time. As for Zhang Ruoc Si, Yang Kai can chase her afterward. The fact is indeed as Yang Kai expected. When the ladder of the years was more than halfway through, watching Si finally couldn't bear the washing of the power of the years. The benefits that she could get by stepping on the ladder before suddenly became a kind of torment. The erosion of the power of the years made her inexplicably, there was a feeling of youth passing away, and she panicked and looked up at Yang Kai, wanting to call out. At the critical moment, she couldn't utter a single word, and she was so anxious that she was sweating all over her body. Fortunately, Yang Kai has been paying attention to her movements, and when he found this, he quickly stretched out his hand and took her back into mysterious Shaoji. At this time, Yang Kai looked up again, and could only vaguely see Zhang Ruoxi's back. The little girl threw Yang Kai at least dozens of steps away, and seemed to have been immersed in the various benefits she had obtained, unable to extricate herself. Her footsteps never stopped for a moment, kept going upwards. Seeing this scene, Yang Kai didn't dare to be negligent, and spared no effort to continue climbing, wanting to narrow the distance with Zhang Ruoxi. Somewhere in the Temple of Time, in the dark and boundless hall, deep breathing and the sound of a strong heartbeat can be faintly heard. An inexplicable coercion pervades the hall. If any living beings come here, they will be paralyzed immediately. Falling to the ground, the coercion was as heavy as a mountain, and even the Emperor's senior realm would tremble from it. At a certain moment, two long and narrow red lights suddenly lit up in the darkness. Accompanied by the sound of heavy breathing, the two long and narrow lights suddenly widened. They were two eyes the size of a gong. These are a pair of animal pupils full of wild and killing light, golden pupils, red pupils, filled with infinite violence. Oh, have these little bugs finally found the Temple of Time? A thunderous voice sounded in the dark hall, and at the same time as the voice came out, a dazzling fire burst out of the darkness. The fire light came from a strange giant beast covered in flames. This beast was about 3 stories high, like a tiger or an ox, as if poured from flames, with a red horn on its forehead, wings on its back, scales on its body, majestic and majestic. It seems that my lord's mission is about to be completed. How many years, my lord is finally going to be free. The voice that shook the entire hall came from the belly of this strange beast. All around, it seems to be able to penetrate the void. While watching, it murmured, "Let me see what's so special about these little bugs." As far as it can see, none of the dozens of warriors in the Temple of Time can escape its observation, and it can't forget to comment while watching, "Well, this guy's qualifications are not bad, but HMPH, he can't get into the book yet." Grandpa's eyes, "Hey. This little girl is quite famous, her physique is good, her cultivation level is not high, but she has an emperor's treasure beside her. Is she the heir of some great emperor? Well, although I reluctantly agree to the conditions, but forget it, great emperors are not fun." The novel, Martial Peak, will have more fresh content on the official WeChat platform, and there will also be a 100% lucky draw gift for everyone. Open WeChat now, click on the top right, plus, add friends, on the account, search for the official account, Q-Dread, and pay attention, hurry up. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to vote for recommendations and monthly tickets. Your support is me the biggest motivator. Mobile phone users please go to read. Chapter 2163 Chongqi. P.S. I want to hear more of your voices, I want to receive more of your suggestions. Now search and pay attention to the WeChat official account, Q-Dread, and give more support to Martial Peak. In the Temple of Time, because the chosen route is different, everyone's chances are also different. But at this moment, no matter where they are, everyone feels inexplicably horrified, as if somewhere in the dark, there is a pair of lofty eyes looking down on them. This made everyone a little creepy and chilled all over. Fortunately, this feeling came and went quickly, and it disappeared in the blink of an eye, making them think that it was just their own illusion. In the dark hall, the strange beast was still observing all directions, commenting from time to time. Many elite warriors were turned into rubbish by it. What's going on with the little bug? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. A guy at the first level of Daoyuan actually brought 5 emperor treasures with him. What's the reason? The strange beast has lived for tens of thousands of years, experienced violent winds and waves, and was shocked by Yang Kai's background at this moment because it found that Yang Kai alone brought 5 emperor treasures. Even the General Emperor Senior Realm doesn't have so many emperor treasures. The 5 pieces it refers to are naturally the Nirvana Thunder Orb, the Mysterious Boundary Orb, the Slave Insect Bracelet, the Soul Slayer Knife and the Million Sword. In this Temple of Time, nothing can escape its observation. Could it be that his family are all emperors? Strange Beast secretly guessed, otherwise, how could such a warrior have so many emperor treasures? Dabao is not a bad street product. One must know that such a dignified existence as Lan Xuan only has 1 emperor treasure in his hand, and that is the defensive Emperor Mingyu bestowed on her to prevent her from encountering any accidents. Forget it, even though aptitude and character are top choices, this guy looks like a troublesome person, so it's better not to have any contact with him. The strange beast chattered for a while, turning its gaze away from Yang Kai, opened, and landed on Zhang Ruoxi's side. Well, this little girl, why did she return to the 2nd level of the void? The strange beast's eyes flickered suspiciously. How did you come here with such a low cultivation level? Why did my uncle just sleep? There are so many weird things happening. At this point, it suddenly widened its eyes, fixedly stared at Zhang Ruoxi's direction, and exclaimed, "No, this little girl, she actually..." At this moment, it seemed to have discovered something. Its originally arrogant tone suddenly became terrified, and even the 2 terrifying beast pupils showed a horrified expression, as if it was extremely afraid of Zhang Ruoxi. Look. On that huge head, cold sweat dripped down. And at this moment, Zhang Ruoxi seemed to have reached her limit. The end of the ladder of time was not far ahead, but she couldn't lift her steps no matter what. She stubbornly looked up, wanting to take her own steps, but he felt weak all over, and his legs were as heavy as lead. At this moment, the power of time flooding the ladder of time burst out suddenly, invading Zhang Ruoxi's body, trying to engulf her. Following behind her, Yang Kai, who had already chased a dozen steps away, clearly saw Zhang Ruoxi's black hair turning white as snow in a very short period of time. Yang Kai was shocked and realized something was wrong. Stimulating the energy in his body, he stepped forward, trying to shorten the distance between Zhang Ruoxi and Zhang Ruoxi. But climbing the ladder of time to this point, any step is extremely difficult, and this short distance of more than 10 steps is not an existence that Yang Kai can shorten if he wants to shorten it. He was as anxious as an ant on a hot pan. Just as anxious as him was the strange beast in the hall. As the existence of guarding the Temple of Time, Zhang Ruoxi's state and changes were naturally noticed by it. It was secretly happy for a while, thinking that Zhang Ruoxi would definitely die, and was secretly happy for a while, but then, it felt a little bad, because once Zhang Ruoxi was cornered, the power of the blood that was lurking in her body was very likely to wake up. Once that thing wakes up, it will be a big deal for me. Thinking of this, the strange beast stood up, stretched out a claw, and probed into the void. The space was directly shattered by this blow. The huge claw crossed the barrier of space, and grabbed Zhang Ruoxi in the palm of his hand. Then immediately retracted. While doing this, it murmured, worrying about gains and losses. "Doom, oh doom. I don't know whether it is right or wrong to do this." After saying that, it slowly opened its paws, and placed Zhang Ruoxi with a dazed expression in front of him. Zhang Ruoxi obviously hasn't figured out what happened. She just feels that endless time is passing by her body. In that short moment, she seems to have passed 100 years, the vitality seems to be passing, and the breath of death rushes towards her. She wanted to turn around and call Yang Kai, but she couldn't even turn around. And just when she thought she was going to die, a giant claw unexpectedly fell from the sky, pulled her back from the gate of hell, and brought her into this dark hall. She looked up, and saw a huge flaming monster in front of her, staring at her with a pair of beast eyes. Ordinary people would turn pale with fright when they saw such a huge monster. They would turn their heads and run away screaming again and again. And Zhang Ruoxi herself is not a brave person, her cultivation base is even less high, and her knowledge is not extensive, so it is not surprising that she fainted from being frightened directly. But for some reason, she looked up at the monster, but she didn't feel any fear at all. Instead, she felt the feeling that the other party should be afraid of her. What comes out is as natural as breathing, and it is convincing. She pursed her red lips lightly, and looked up at the huge monster. The small figure formed a sharp contrast with it. The four eyes met, but it was the monster who felt hairy at the sight, with cold sweat dripping on his forehead, and his eyes were flickering. "You, why do you seem to be afraid of me?" Zhang Ruoxi suddenly asked. As soon as she opened her mouth, the monster couldn't help but took 2 steps back. It looked at her with fear in its eyes, and a thunderous voice came from its belly, and said with a dry smile, "Hee hee, yes, why should I be afraid of you?" Zhang Ruoxi didn't go to get to the bottom of it, but beckoned at it. Seeing this, the monster actually came over and crawled in front of Zhang Ruoxi. Its violent eyes became extremely docile at this moment. There was a hint of fear in it. "You saved me?" Zhang Ruoxi asked. The monster thought for a while and said, "Not bad. Thank you." Zhang Ruoxi smiled sweetly, and stretched out her hand, as if she wanted to touch the monster's head, but hesitated for a moment, and said, "I won't hurt you, will I?" She didn't know why she would ask such a question, but she always had a feeling telling herself that if she touched the monster in front of her, it would most likely cause some damage to it. "Now you probably won't," the monster replied. Only then did Zhang Ruoxi put her hand on its forehead and stroked it gently. The scorching flame burned Zhang Ruoxi's bare hands, but miraculously did not cause any harm to her, and with her stroking, the monster made a purring sound, just like a cat's reaction when being stroked. "It's so embarrassing, so embarrassing. It's a great shame for my uncle to be touched like this by a little girl," the monster said unhappily in his heart, but his body responded honestly. "What's your name?" Zhang Ruoxi suddenly asked again. "Qing Qi. What a strange name." Zhang Ruoxi smiled slightly, with a confused look in her beautiful eyes, and said, "I don't know why, although I heard this name for the first time, it still feels very familiar." "Do you know the reason?" "I don't know." Changqi shook his head like a rattle, thinking in his heart that it would be good if you never figured it out for the rest of your life. Why would this uncle tell you such a thing on his own initiative? If this is the case, isn't the end of my uncle coming soon? Okay, let's go. Zhang Ruoxi withdrew her hand while speaking, and said sincerely, "Thank you for saving my life just now, but can I trouble you to send me back? I suddenly disappeared, sir will be very worried." "Sir?" Changqi heard the words, and asked suspiciously, "Is that the man behind you?" "Yes, can you see him?" Zhang Ruoxi nodded quickly. Changqi proudly said, "In this temple, no trouble can escape my observation. I also saw that you were in danger just now, so I brought you here." After a pause, it shook its head again and said, "I didn't expect it, I didn't expect it. Even if you are as powerful as you will be protected by others." Although it deliberately lowered its volume when it said this, its voice was already loud enough for Zhang Ruoxi to hear it clearly. Zhang Ruoxi quickly waved her hands, and said with a look of embarrassment, "What are you talking about, sir? You are the best. How can I be so strong?" She just thought that Changqi was talking nonsense to make herself happy. "One day, you will be strong," Changqi pointed out. "Well, I will work hard." Zhang Ruoxi was full of energy. "Forget it, since you and I are destined to meet today, I'll give you something." Changqi suddenly seemed to remember something, and said, while speaking, it stretched out its claws and scratched in the void. When it was taken back, there was a pink neon robe on the paw. The robe was dazzling, and the charm of the emperor flowed on it, making it look beautiful. "Your strength is still low now, so I will give you this Fengkexia robe. After wearing it, ordinary people will probably not hurt you." Changqi's strength is as high as the sky, and the ordinary people it talks about can be understood as Emperor Prestige Realm the following warriors. How did this happen? Although Zhang Ruoxi liked the treasure clothes very much, her good upbringing made her unable to accept this gift for no reason, and quickly waved her hand to reject it. "Put it on, it's your chance." As a martial artist cultivates, chance is also a powerful part. Changqi said in his mouth, but he was thinking in his heart, if it wasn't for fear that some guy with no eyes would provoke you and let you the power of the bloodline awakened ahead of time, how could my uncle take such painstaking efforts? This uncle has worked hard, and it is not easy to plan ahead. When we get out of here, we should go to Long Island to find those old dragons and blackmail them. Anyway, this is not my business alone. Those few old dragons can't just sit idly by. The novel, Martial Peak, will have more fresh content on the official WeChat platform, and there will also be a 100% lucky draw gift for everyone. Open WeChat now, click the plus sign on the top right, add friends, search for the official account, Q-Dread, and pay attention, hurry up. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to vote for recommendations and monthly tickets. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 2164 Come to Fight. P.S. I want to hear more of your voices, I want to receive more of your suggestions, now search and pay attention to the WeChat official account, Q-Dread, and give more support to Marshall Peak. At the step of time, Yang Kai was burning with anxiety, struggling to climb up. Zhang Ruoxi suddenly disappeared in front of his eyes, leaving him at a loss as to what kind of danger this little girl encountered and whether there was anything unexpected. He secretly blamed himself, and felt that if it wasn't for his own whim, he wanted Zhang Ruoxi to climb the ladder of time together, and such a thing would not have happened. Just as he was anxious, a brilliant light suddenly flashed above, and a figure appeared. Yang Kai was stunned, and looked up, stunned. Zhang Ruoxi stood at the top of the ladder of time, looking at herself with a smile. Her hair that should have become snow white was still as black as ink at this moment. Illusion. Yang Kai was a little at a loss. He clearly saw Zhang Ruoxi disappearing strangely just now, and clearly saw the power of time eroding her body, making her youthful and old, but now she appeared in front of his eyes in good condition, and she had already reached the top position. It all seemed so unreal. Yang Kai quickened his pace, and after burning a stick of incense, he finally reached the top out of breath. Stepping here, the lingering power of time disappears in an instant. Looking back, this step of time has become ordinary, and it seems that it no longer has the magical power of greatness. What happened just now? Yang Kai gasped and asked quickly. It was Ruoxi who was reckless. Zhang Ruoxi replied in a low voice with guilt on her face, I was only immersed in the joy of gaining power just now, but I forgot my husband's instructions. By the time I realized it, it was already too late. Then why do you? It was a powerful monster that saved me. Zhang Ruoxi replied timidly, watching her words and expressions, lest Yang Kai get angry. A powerful monster? Yang Kai looked stunned. Is there a monster in the Temple of Time? What kind of monster? At this moment, Yang Kai was taken aback. The Temple of Time and Moon has not been out for tens of thousands of years. This time, it suddenly appeared strangely. He thought that there were no creatures here at all, but he didn't want to learn from Zhang Ruoxi that there were powerful monsters. He was able to rescue Zhang Ruoxi from the ladder of time, and his strength was obviously extraordinary, which was enough to make him alert. I can't say it either. Zhang Ruoxi thought about it for a while, didn't know how to describe it, then suddenly smiled and said, but, it said it was called Changqi. What? Yang Kai's eyeballs widened in an instant, cold sweat broke out, he swallowed his saliva, and said in a shy voice, Poor. Strange. Yes, that's what it said. Zhang Ruoxi nodded and replied. After finishing speaking, she tilted her head and said, Sir, what's wrong with you? Why is your complexion so bad? Is there something unwell? You sweat a lot. While talking, she also took out a silk scarf, stood on tiptoe, and gently wiped it for Yang Kai. Hee. The corners of Yang Kai's mouth twitched, he really didn't know what to say. Sir, are you okay? Zhang Ruoxi asked softly. It's okay, it's fine. Yang Kai replied subconsciously, then looked at Zhang Ruoxi and said, Are you sure it says its name is Changqi? Yeah, that's what it says. It didn't do anything to you. Zhang Ruoxi shook her head blankly. No. While speaking, he said happily again, By the way, it even gave me something. What? Zhang Ruoxi pursed her lips and smiled, the holy energy in her body trembled, and a ray of light suddenly bloomed from her delicate body, dazzling people's eyes. Yang Kai squinted his eyes, his heart trembling wildly. But seeing Zhang Ruoxi's body suddenly appeared a pink close-fitting treasure garment at this moment. The halo flowed on the treasure garment, which was beautiful, and the charm of the emperor flowed on it. Power. Dabao. And it was actually a defensive emperor treasure. What the hell is going on here? Zhang Ruoxi suddenly disappeared on the ladder of time strangely, and when she came back, she told herself that she had seen a monster named Changqi. Not only did the monster not do anything to her, it even gave her a defensive emperor treasure. Yang Kai was completely at a loss. After Zhang Ruoxi urged the treasure clothes to form, the whole person was dazzled by the brilliance set off by the emperor treasure, and she looked at Yang Kai timidly, and said, Is this pretty? Yang Kai gave a dry laugh and said, It looks good. This is Dabao. How can it be summed up in just 2 words? Yang Kai howled wildly in his heart. Although he had as many as 5 emperor treasures in his hand, none of them were of the defensive type, which shows how rare defensive emperor treasures are. Changqi said, It's called Fengsaishai. Zhang Ruoxi explained, I don't like the pink one very much, but it's fine if the husband says it looks good. Well, the others gave you a kind heart. Yang Kai tried his best to calm himself down. Next time you see him, you must thank him well. Ruoxi remembered. Zhang Ruoxi nodded respectfully. Put it away first. Unless it is absolutely necessary, don't force it out of its form, otherwise it is very likely to cause big trouble. Yes. While Zhang Ruoxi was speaking, she moved her divine sense and restrained the light of Fengxia Shai, the brilliant light flashed, and Baoyi disappeared. By the way, Ruoxi, did Changqi tell you anything else? Yang Kai asked cautiously. Zhang Ruoxi heard the words, thought for a while, and said, it told me to tell my husband, if there is a chance to enter the last position, I must choose the most useless thing. Choose the seemingly most useless thing? Yang Kai frowned, puzzled, what do you mean? Zhang Ruoxi shook her head. I don't know, it sent me back after it finished speaking. After getting along for such a long time, Yang Kai also knew that this little girl had a pure and kind personality, and it was impossible to hide anything from him, let alone deceive him, so he didn't ask any more questions but only carefully asked about her relationship with the poor. What happened after Chi met, but I didn't get much information. No matter how Yang Kai thought about this, it was incredible. In the end, he could only think that this was Zhang Ruoxi's chance. Otherwise, after seeing such a fierce beast as Changqi, why would a warrior who had returned to the void return stage not only return safely, but also received such an emperor treasure as Feng Taixia clothes? Afterwards, Yang Kai let Zhang Ruoxi enter the mysterious small world, and sat alone on the top of the time stairway, calming down a little. It took him a long time to stand up. At the top of the time ladder is a gate, Yang Kai noticed it before, and if he wants to leave here, he probably can only pass through this gate. He stretched out his hand and slowly pushed the door open. Dazzling light came from the front. Yang Kai couldn't help squinting his eyes, his spiritual sense sent out to investigate, and after confirming that there was no danger inside, he stepped in. A feeling of weightlessness came immediately, as if the stepping out of this foot brought my body to another space. A breath of life suddenly appeared, vaguely with a hint of familiarity and strong hostility. Yang Kai was startled, raised his eyes and looked forward, and after seeing the situation in front of him, he couldn't help but startled. The place where I am now seems to be a high platform. This high platform is circular and occupies more than 100 feet. The abyss around the high platform is dark, and there are ghosts crying and wolf howling below, which makes people creepy. Once you fall into it, you will never turn over. But when he turned around and looked around, he couldn't see where he came from, let alone the door before. On this high platform, a person stood with a sword, waiting quietly. The moment Yang Kai appeared, that person's falcon eyes suddenly shot over and fixed on Yang Kai, full of high fighting spirit. The four eyes met, and both of them were stunned. Yang Kai grinned and raised his hand to greet the man. Brother Xiaobai, you are here too, what a coincidence. He found that the person on this high platform was actually Xiaobai from Qingyang Temple. But for some reason, Murong Xiaoxiao, who was always with him, was not by his side. While speaking, Yang Kai strolled towards that side, while walking, while looking at the surrounding environment, but what puzzled him was that this high platform seemed to be an independent space, without seeing where it came from or where it was going, as if it had been cut off from this world. Yang Kai frowned slightly, he didn't know what was going on here, he was thinking about it, but he heard a buzz coming from the front, and at the same time, a ray of light flashed by. Yang Kai paused and stopped, the light immediately cut in front of his toes, almost hurting him. Yang Kai looked up at Xiaobai, frowned and said, Brother Xiaobai, what does this mean? Come to fight. Xiaobai's long sword shook, pointing at Yang Kai from a distance, his passionate fighting intent was boiling like boiling water. The corner of Yang Kai's mouth twitched, and said, no need. If you want to fight, wait until you get out of the Four Seasons land, and I will fight with you, here. Forget it. Xiaobai slowly shook his head, his face was as cold as ice, and he said in a deep voice, it is precisely because we are here that we must fight. Hearing this, Yang Kai seemed to have thought of something, his face sank, and said, Brother Xiaobai means, only one of you and I can leave here. Xiaobai said, it seems that you are not too stupid. He shouted loudly, this is a platform for discussing Taoism, only the winner is qualified to move on. When he was speaking, Yang Kai had already noticed that above the high platform, there were three big characters purely transformed from energy floating in the air, which were the three big characters on the Tao platform. In an instant, he understood. Xiaobai is waiting here, probably waiting for his opponent in the discussion. It's just that I ran into him very unfortunately. Thinking of this, Yang Kai also looked solemn, and said sternly, it seems, really must fight. Good. The winner moves on, the loser, what's the result? Yang Kai asked. Xiao Bai shook his head. I don't know, it's probably just a death. After finishing speaking, he snorted coldly and said, why, are you afraid? Yang Kai shook his head with a wry smile, and said, no, it's just. I don't want to kill you, brother Xiao Bai. You and I have no grievances, although you seem to have some opinions on me, but anyway, we entered the land of 4 seasons together. If I really killed you here, how can I explain to Elder Gao and the others later? The novel, Martial Peak, will have more fresh content on the official WeChat platform, and there will also be a 100% lucky draw gift for everyone. Open WeChat now, click the plus sign on the top right, add friend, search for the official account, cue dread, and pay attention, hurry up. This work, you are welcome to come to vote for recommendation votes and monthly tickets. Your support is my biggest motivation. Mobile phone users, please go to read. Chapter 2165. My name is Xiao Bai. It's up to you. Xiao Bai's eyes turned stern, and he continued to sneer. Big words. Brother Xiao Bai, Yang Kai said earnestly, why don't you find a place to sit down and carefully search for any way out of this ghostly place? No, before you came, I have searched carefully, between you and me. The only battle. Before Yang Kai could finish speaking, Xiao Bai interrupted him. He said coldly, say to be honest, with your strength, it is really surprising that you were able to defeat Shui Yi and snatch his place. You do have the qualifications to enter the land of 4 seasons. However, Xiao is a disciple of Qingyang Temple, senior brother Shui Yi. You can't just sit back and watch him being bullied. Xiao will avenge junior brother Shui's revenge that day. But don't worry, there's a huge difference in cultivation between you and me. Xiao won't use all his strength. 60% of it is enough to deal with you. If possible, I will not kill you. As the words fell, Xiao Bai shook his long sword, turned into a frightened bird, and floated above the top of Yang Kai. The long sword was like water and ice, exuding a decisive chill, covering his head with dazzling sword light, pouring down. Yang Kai grinned and said, since this battle is unavoidable, if there is any offense, please don't blame brother Xiao Bai. After saying that, the place where he was covered by the sword light, and his body was even pierced by the sword light, but strangely no blood flowed out, and the smile still hung on his face. Xiao Bai's expression moved, his source power burst out, his aura was like a rainbow, his body surface exuded a cold air, like a violent snowstorm, and with a backhand sword, the long sword suddenly became extremely huge, like a sword holding up the sky, and slashed down. On that side, Yang Kai's figure appeared like a ghost, but his eyes shrank, and he had to run away again. Boom! The giant sword fell, and the spiritual energy surged. Xiao Bai put the sword back and stood up, looking sideways at the void, where Yang Kai's figure appeared. You really are a little different, and it's no fluke to beat Shui Yi. Xiao Bai said in a deep voice. Yang Kai smiled slightly. Brother Xiao Bai, was that 60% strength just now? If that's the case, I advise you to hurry up and use all your strength, otherwise. Don't worry, it was only 30% just now. Xiao Bai said proudly. 30%, Yang Kai murmured, then nodded slightly, admiring. You are indeed the elite of Qingyang Temple, you are very different from the source of Tao that I encountered before. It's still too late to admit defeat. Xiao Bai shouted abruptly, and pointed at the long sword, and with a twist of his body, he suddenly wrapped himself in the sword light, turning into a beam of strength, and directly aimed at Yang Kai's chest and abdomen. This sword is fast, accurate, and ruthless, and the power of law lingers on it. Under the icy cold, layers of thin ice have grown on the Tao discussion platform. There was a faint whistling wind coming from the side, which made people feel chills in their hearts. The law of ice and cold. Yang let out a loud shout, feeling the erosion and influence of the power of the law on himself, making the surrounding space solidify. He couldn't help but burst out shouting, and the colorful rays of light bloomed on the surface of his body, dispelling all kinds of damage. Feeling uncomfortable, with a flick of the wrist, the million sword appeared leisurely. He waved his long sword, and said in his mouth, the sword will produce 1,000,000, and 1 man will guard the gate. The sword light is vertical and horizontal, tens of thousands of sword chi fight and swim, like a torrential rain, facing Xiao Bai who was attacking from the opposite side. It's Dabao again. In the sword light, Xiao Bai's cold snort came, but he didn't intend to dodge at all. Instead, he urged the sword light to meet him like a rainbow. Chi 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 chi. The shocking sword light cut off all the millions of sword lights, and bullied Yang Kai without any strength. Call. Xiao Baiyi's figure suddenly appeared, his eyes were as sharp as a knife, his whole body exuded an astonishing aura, and he swung his sword towards Yang Kai. Yang Kai chuckled and raised his sword to block it. With a clanging sound, an incomparable momentum vibrated, and on the space of the Tao discussion platform, countless cracks were cut by the escaping tiny sword energy, which disappeared in a flash. Xiao Baiyi froze slightly, but quickly got rid of the influence of Emperor Treasure, and turned into an afterimage, with the long sword in his hand constantly calling out to Yang Kai's body. He still had the strength to taunt. Even though Emperor Treasure is strong, how much power can you display with your strength? Shui Yi's defeat by you is just careless. Yang Kai was like a swimming dragon, holding a million swords, constantly blocking attacks from all directions, and smiled slightly. Brother Xiaobai seems to have a lot of opinions on this sword. While the two were talking, the movements of their hands did not stop at all, and the sound of jingling continued, like a musical score, extremely pleasing to the ear. HMPH, relying on the power of secret treasures is also a skill. Since you said that, then I'll change my sword. Yang Kai said. The million sword in his hand suddenly disappeared, replaced by another Daoyuan middle-grade sharp sword. Xiao Baiyi frowned, jumped out of the battle circle, and said in a concentrated voice, "Change troops just before the battle, what do you mean? It's not interesting." Yang Kai tilted his head and looked at him. "I just don't want to be accused of relying on the power of the Emperor Treasure after winning against you. Underestimate me." Xiao Baiyi was furious at the crown. He was dressed in white without any wind, and slowly floated into the air, and said coldly, "If you change it back now, I will pretend that I didn't see it, otherwise it will be too late to regret." As he spoke, he pointed his long sword towards the sky, and a blizzard suddenly appeared in the sky. The blizzard was not too violent at the beginning, but in the blink of an eye, it produced a destructive momentum, wrapped Xiao Baiyi's whole body in it. Sen Leng's voice came out from the blizzard. Xiao Baiyi said in his mouth, "This is my 60% strength, if you can't handle it, you will die. I advise you to avoid it." After the words fell, he shouted loudly, "Human sword, spin off." The blizzard suddenly turned into a blizzard-filled ice dragon, staring at the eyes the size of a gong, and with a destructive momentum, it rushed towards the place where Yang Kai was. Yang Kai finally put away the expression of that hippie smiling face, looked solemnly at the attacking killing move, felt the power contained in it, and said in a deep voice, as expected of the sect of the Qingyang Temple sect performing martial arts, "Brother Xiaobai is really here. It's the name, 60% of the strength is as powerful as this, if the strength is fully developed." Although he praised, but his hands were not idle at all, the sword body shook, accompanied by the sound of buzzing. Yang Kai looked solemn, and whispered in his mouth, 3,000 swordsmanship, flowing flames like fire. The body of the sword became extremely red in an instant, and from the long sword, a figure of a fire bird suddenly shot out. This figure was exactly the same as Lu Yan's body. Touch. Boom boom boom. The ice dragon dissipated, and the flames annihilated. Xiao Baiyi was shaken out of shape, and he let out a low voice, "How could it be?" His eyes were shocked. He stared at Yang Kai, and asked in a cold tone, "What is your relationship with Chen Wenhao, Master Chen of Tianwu Holy Land?" As an elite disciple of the Qingyang Temple, he naturally knew something about Chen Wenhao. The 3,000 swordsmanship was clearly the sword power Chen Wenhao had comprehended, and it was displayed from Yang Kai's hands at this moment. Although it is a little different from the rumors, it seems to be quite powerful. It doesn't matter. Yang Kai held a long sword in his hand with a flower, and said casually, "I just fought against him once, and saw that he had performed the 3,000 swordsmanship, and thought it was not bad, so I used it casually." What Yang Kai said was the truth. That day when he was eroded by demonic thoughts, he had indeed fought against Chen Wenhao, not only against Chen Wenhao, but also against Gao Shueding and Feng Ming. Yang Kai naturally remembered the extreme moves performed by the three great emperors. "I have a little understanding." However, at this moment, the 3,000 swordsmanship that he displayed, and what Chen Wenhao himself comprehended, are not the same thing at all. Yang Kai is just activating the fire sword chi in the immortal 5 elements sword chi, condensing it just in the form of a stream of inflammation. Is it so easy to comprehend the extreme moves of the strong in the Emperor's senior realm? The mysteries and miraculousness in it can only be understood and displayed by Emperor's senior realm. However, it is more than enough to deal with the situation in front of him, Xiao Bai has only heard about the 3,000 swordsmanship, and has not seen it with his own eyes, so how can he tell the truth? Enough! Xiao Bai yelled angrily, looking very angry. There should be a limit to nonsense. You bastard is full of nonsense, who will believe you? Regardless of whether you have anything to do with Chen Wenhao or Master Chen, today the ending will not change. The momentum on his body rose suddenly. It seemed that he felt that 60% of his strength could not take down Yang Kai, and he had to use more strength. Chi chi chi. All of a sudden, lightning bolts flew away, and Xiao Bai's body surface, lightning flashed wildly, and the entire Dao discussion platform turned into a sea of thunder and lightning in an instant, which looked extremely frightening. After comprehending the law of ice and cold, you can still use the secret art of thunder. Yang Kai was extremely surprised and praised. Brother Xiao Bai is really extraordinary. Given time, I am afraid that you will be the overlord of this star realm. It's useless to flatter you. Xiao Bai, you're so happy to shout. Give me a try, Earth Sword. Meteor Thunder. Pointing at his long sword, the thunder was furious, and thunderstorms fell from the sky, completely submerging the place where Yang Kai was. Yang Kai's head moved, and he shouted loudly, so that's the case, it's because the name Xiao Bai makes you uncomfortable. After the words fell, Yang Kai was already wrapped in lei hai, and there seemed to be a smell of burnt meat in the air. Xiao Bai's eyes flickered for a moment, staring down, frowned and said, remember, my name is Xiao Bai. I just think, Brother Xiao Bai's name is just kind to people, Brother Xiao don't need to be so angry. Yang Kai's voice came from below, full of energy, as if he was not hurt at all. Xiao Bai's eyeballs were instantly rounded, and he stared down dumbfounded. In the sea of thunder, Yang Kai seemed to have undergone a huge change. On the surface of his body, colorful rays of light bloomed, and the power of the 5 elements was disillusioned, forming a strong defense against the thunder arc. Killing, if that's all there is to it. Both of his hands are now covered with a layer of fine scales, and his hands have become like dragon claws. On the cheeks, on the forehead, and on all the exposed skin, there are scales exuding an astonishing aura. To be continued. This text is provided by the Breaking Dawn Update group at Wei Hi Sheng Sheng. If you like this work, you are welcome to vote for recommendations and monthly tickets. Your support is my greatest motivation. Chapter 2166 Way Out. Dragon Breath. Xiao Bai cried out in surprise. He felt the aura of a real dragon from where Yang Kai was. Although this aura was not strong, the terrifying coercion that was born that day made people's hearts tremble. As soon as he finished speaking, a golden real dragon phantom suddenly appeared behind Yang Kai. The dragon shadow was extremely huge, entrenched behind Yang Kai, slowly opened a pair of eyes, and looked in his direction. Xiao Bai's back was instantly drenched in cold sweat, and he couldn't help but take a few steps back. Brother Xiao Bai's strength is not bad, so I have to take it seriously. You, be careful. Yang Kai said. The sword body shook, and in an instant, colorful rays of light burst out, and the 5 elements and extinguishable sword energy overflowed, and the thunder sea purgatory was dispersed in just one breath, revealing Yang Kai's Huayan figure. The golden dragon phantom behind him roared up to the sky, while the sound of the dragon chant resounded through the heaven and earth. It turned into a stream of light, poured into the sword body, and accompanied by Yang Kai's slash, roared away. At that moment, time seemed to flow for tens of millions of years, traveling through countless time and space, and the power of a real dragon was enough to smash the world. Xiao Bai's temples were dripping with cold sweat. Being forced by the infinite pressure, he couldn't help taking a few steps back, but soon, he gritted his teeth, forced himself to stand still, urged the source force fiercely, and protected himself from the stars outside his body. At the same time, he sacrificed a mirror-like defense. Secret treasure turned into a light curtain, blocking the front. Boom! The golden light slashed, the energy overflowed violently, and the entire Dao forum hummed continuously, as if the end of the world was approaching, and the surging spiritual energy fluctuations did not subside for a long time. Yang Kai's gaze was like a knife, and he looked forward coldly. 10 zhang away, Xiao Bai was pale and stood out of thin air. Although the light curtain transformed by the secret treasure of the mirror was still blocking his body, it had cracked countless gaps, and in the next breath, it shattered into countless pieces. His eyeballs trembled violently, and the sharp weapon in his hand could not stop screaming. Looking at each other across the air, Xiao Bai gritted his teeth and drank in a low voice. You at the first level of Daoyuan, how could you do this? Yang Kai said lightly. Strength is not judged by the level of cultivation, don't you understand this truth, Brother Bai? I don't believe it, Xiao Bai roared, and a violent aura suddenly erupted from his body. At this moment, the source power that should have been dormant suddenly exploded. He pulled his long sword and roared, "This is the last move, if you can catch it, you will win, if you can't catch it, you will die." Hearing what he said, Yang Kai couldn't help but look serious, knowing that Xiao Bai was about to use his ultimate move, and the desperate moves at the Daoyuan third layer level were not so easy to pick up. He immediately held his breath and concentrated, secretly stimulating the source force. When Xiao Bai's words fell, his expression suddenly became extremely solemn, with a pious and holy look on his face. He flicked the long sword with his fingers, and amidst the buzzing of the sword, his whole body turned into countless brilliants, falling from the sky. The astonishing coercion suddenly came, and the void shook, making people feel a sense of heaven and earth falling apart for no reason. A deep moan came slowly. Heavenly sword, broken star. As the words fell, countless clusters of light burst out in the sky and fell down with a bang, like countless meteors falling, making people inevitable and despairing. Yang Kai's eyes burst into a gleam of divine light, and he moved forward, not retreating but advancing, abandoning the long sword and not using it. Forming seals with both hands, the power of space lingered around him, and the law of space suddenly permeated. Countless pitch-black moon blades flew upwards, facing the falling light, and with the rumbling sound, black holes burst out one after another in the void, devouring the unimaginably devastating energy impact. Exhausted, the violent energy fluctuations shocked people's minds, as if the platform of the Taoism was about to sink. Yang Kai's figure is like electricity, shuttles and flickers in the void, looking for Xiao Bai's figure. Suddenly, he narrowed his eyes, mobilized yuanli, and slapped towards a certain position with his palm. Snapped. At the same time as the sound came out, accompanied by two muffled hums, Yang Kai backed up a few steps with a livid face, and Xiao Bai also showed his pale figure in the empty and deserted place. His breath was weak, and he fell down unwillingly. The vision all over the sky suddenly disappeared at this moment, and only the atmosphere of Shaosu after the great battle remained in the air. Xiao Bai fell heavily to the ground, and immediately another carp stood up straight, but he couldn't stand still. His figure was wobbly, and he had to stick a long sword in his hand to prevent himself from falling down. His exposed skin was all cracked, and blood flowed out of his body continuously. On the chest, there is a clear palm print. Only this palm is the damage caused by Yang Kai to him, the others are not the work of Yang Kai. Yang Kai stood in midair, looking down at the hand that made the move. Blood was flowing out at this moment, the entire palm was pierced, the pain was unbearable, and there seemed to be a trace of law power lingering around the wound, blocking the injury rehabilitation. He shook off the blood on his hand, urged the power, and dissolved the remaining power of law, and said lightly, "Brother Xiao Bai, this move of the heavenly sword seems to exceed the scope of what you can enslave. It is necessary to do this." Although Yang Kai didn't know what kind of secret technique Xiao Bai had learned, this last sword was obviously not something that Xiao Bai could use at this moment. If he used it forcibly, it would definitely bring harm to himself. Xiao Bai's state at this moment is the best proof. Ha 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 ha. Although Xiao Bai looked desolate, he couldn't help laughing out loud. His laughter was indescribably bright and joyful, without the slightest sign of regret or unwillingness. He said, "Of course it is necessary. A strong enemy, you should show what you have learned. You will die or I will die, so what's the matter with mere backlash?" Yang Kai slightly nodded, said, "Brother Xiao Bai really has a strong heart. Admiration, admiration." Xiao Bai shook his head slowly, and said, "It's a pity that I still can't match you in the end. Daoyuan first level, hee. He smiled wryly, his tone was extremely complicated, and contained many emotions. Before that, he never thought that one day he would lose to an opponent at the first level of Daoyuan. He is the proud son of heaven, and he thinks highly of himself. In this world, except for a few people, he doesn't pay attention to them. But today's battle made him realize a lot. I seem to be a person standing in waist-deep river water, saying that he has seen the sea. It's ridiculous." Yang Kai, Xiao Bai yelled, threw the long sword out casually, and said shakingly, "Do it." He looked as if he was going to poke with his neck raised, and he didn't seem to plan to fight back. After all, even his strongest move was miraculously resolved by Yang Kai, and he had no energy left to fight again. "I didn't say I wanted to kill you." Yang Kai grinned, "I keep clamoring that you are the only one alive, right?" Xiao Bai frowned, and said, "If you want to move on, you have to do it, otherwise you and I may be trapped here forever." "Not necessarily," Yang Kai denied his point of view. It is true that as he said before, he has no grievances with Xiao Bai, and there is no need to kill him. And, when he fought with Xiao Bai before, the other party didn't have any murderous intentions, only a high fighting spirit. It can be seen that Xiao Bai didn't want to kill him, he just wanted to fight Yang Kai. This is exactly the mentality that a martial artist who pursues the peak of martial arts should have. While speaking, Yang Kai turned his head and looked around, trying to find the exit of the Dao discussion platform. But this place is just a high platform hanging alone in the midair, surrounded by a boundless abyss, pitch black and bottomless, with ghosts crying and wolves below, as if something bad is filling it. The exit is below. Yang Kai came to the edge of the Dao discussion platform, looked down, felt the strange aura coming from below, and couldn't help feeling a little numb. If he really jumped, he didn't know what would happen. Consequence. Yang Kai secretly decided not to jump unless it was absolutely necessary. In fact, he had another way to get through here. According to what Xiao Bai said, the exit of the platform probably only appears after one person dies. If so, he put Xiao Bai in the mysterious boundary bead, and the exit will probably appear. It's just. In this way, the secret of the mysterious boundary orb was revealed. So, he activated the power of space, trying to see if he could teleport away, but the next moment, he shook his head. The power of space can be used, and there is no problem with teleportation, but it can only teleport on this platform. This place seems to be an isolated space, and Yang Kai has no way to teleport to the outside world. You can't find it. Seeing him scurrying around, Xiao Bai couldn't help reminding, I said earlier, I have searched this place carefully, and there is no way out. I have already lost, and you have lost consecutively. Or don't you have the courage to have a proper ending? Yang Kai turned his head to look at him, and when he was about to say something, the entire Dao discussion platform suddenly buzzed and began to vibrate. Yang Kai's expression froze, and he quickly released his spiritual sense to investigate the surroundings. Xiao Bai was also obviously taken aback, not knowing what was going on. But soon, a surprising scene happened. In the sky, a hanging three large characters suddenly turned into two rays of light, one large and one small, and one of them shot towards Xiao Bai, wrapping his whole body without waiting for him to react. After a slight sway, it disappeared. Xiao Bai disappeared together with him. But the other ray of light connected to the sky, and in a burst of distortion, it turned into a bridge of light curtain, leading obliquely to the top. At the end of the bridge of light curtain, there was a closed door hidden, leading to that unknown world. Yang Kai couldn't help but froze for a moment, frowned and thought for a while, then looked at the light curtain bridge and said to himself, this thing must be the way to the exit. Brother Xiao Bai seems to have been teleported out, so the key point is for him to admit defeat. Judging from the scene just now, it seems that after Xiao Bai surrendered, the Dao discussion platform changed, not only teleporting him away, but also showing a way out. Looking at it this way, it is naturally clear at a glance where the opportunity lies. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to vote for recommendations and monthly tickets. Your support is my biggest motivation. Mobile phone users, please go to read. Chapter 2167 8 Squares Guiyuan Formation. In the depths of the Temple of Time and Moon, in a certain place, all-powerful people gathered. This is already the deepest part of the temple, and those who are qualified to come here are the top powerhouses in the Daoyuan realm of the Southern Territory. Lan Xuan, Xiao Chen, Luo Yuan, Kong Qi, Murong Xiaoxiao, Gong Wenshan, Bian Yuqing are all listed. Among the 7 people, except for Lan Xuan who is at the first level of Daoyuan and Gong Wenshan who is at the second level of Daoyuan, the others are all at the third level of Daoyuan. Needless to say, Lan Xuan, as the jewel in the palm of Emperor Mingyu, has a special physique, and his own strength cannot be considered as a cultivation base, so he is definitely qualified to set foot here. The same is true of Gong Wenshan. Although his cultivation base is lower than most of the people present, but as a formation master, his methods are strange, and his strength cannot be judged by his cultivation base. It is not surprising that he can come here. At this moment, except for Xiao Chen who has been guarding Lan Xuan's side and never leaves, the others are all looking for their own positions, sitting cross-legged in meditation, recharging their energy, as if they are silently waiting for something. Murong Xiaoxiao still glanced in a certain direction from time to time, her beautiful eyes were full of worry and waiting. At a certain moment, within a round gate of light that was more than 10 feet away from where everyone was, suddenly there were layers of ripples, and then, a figure slowly emerged from the gate of light. Everyone noticed something and turned their heads to look. It's finally ready. Luo Yuan seemed impatient to wait, and couldn't help but snort coldly. Murong Xiao stood up with a long body, a smile appeared on her face, and walked over there, as if to welcome someone. Others also showed great interest, wanting to see who came. The figure slowly took shape, and finally, it walked out of the light gate, revealing its true face. Ah! The smile on Murong Xiao's face froze for a moment. She looked at the person in astonishment. Her expression was extremely complicated. She was a little disappointed, and also a little surprised. She didn't expect that the last person to come out of this light gate was actually Yang Kai, and not the Xiao Bai she had imagined. The other people also had different complexions, and Kong Qi's face twitched, and he quickly looked away, as if looking at Yang Kai more would be a stain on his own vision. Bian Yuqing pursed her lips and smiled. Hey, there are so many people. After Yang Kai walked out of the light gate, he saw the figures of the 7 people in front of him and couldn't help being a little surprised. Why are they all staying here? Wait for you. Bian Yuqing smiled slightly, with all kinds of charm. Yang Kai touched his nose and said, Stop joking, how can I have such a big face, please wait here. He thought Bian Yuqing was just joking with him. I don't know. No kidding, we are indeed waiting for you. Gong Wenshan also stood up at this time, looked at Yang Kai and said seriously, but it is not right to say that, we are not waiting for you but waiting for the last one to come out from here people. Yang Kai frowned, turned his head to look around, and finally fixed his eyes on the front, thoughtfully said, it seems that there are not enough people to break this restriction. Not bad. Gong Wenshan nodded. Who can explain to me, what is the situation now? Yang Kai looked around with a smile on his face. Gong Wenshan said with a look of contempt, I don't want to talk about such a troublesome thing twice. After finishing speaking, he ignored Yang Kai. Murong Xiao pursed her red lips and said, Let me tell you, junior brother Yang. She waved at Yang Kai. Yang Kai nodded and moved over. Murong Xiao immediately explained to him. After listening to her description, Yang Kai realized that at the main entrance of a large hall in front of him, a formation called 8 Directions Guiyuan Formation was arranged. It is also extremely simple to decipher. You only need to get together 8 people and stand in a specific position, and the formation will be self-defeating, and it doesn't require any effort from the warriors. Of course, if there are no people who are proficient in formations here, I'm afraid they won't be able to see the mystery, but this kind of formations is really not a problem in Gong Wenshan's eyes. So, you can only wait here for the arrival of the last person? Yang Kai asked after listening. Yes. Murong Xiao nodded lightly and said with a smile, I didn't expect junior brother Yang to be the last one to come. Yang Kai glanced at her and said in a low voice, Don't worry, brother Xiaobai just suffered a little injury and is not in danger of life. When Murong Xiao heard this, her eyes lit up and she said, Junior brother Yang, have you seen senior brother Xiao? Yang Kai nodded. Then where is he now? Murong Xiao asked nervously. I don't know, maybe it was sent out, maybe it's still somewhere in this temple. Yang Kai shrugged. Murong Xiao seemed to have thought of something, covered her mouth and said in a low voice, Junior brother Yang. Did you beat senior brother Xiao? Yang Kai was stunned. Listen to what you said, have you been to that discussion platform? That's right, Murong Xiao replied, I met an opponent there, and I came here only after defeating him. It seems that everyone's experience is similar. Yang Kai thoughtfully, if it is said that everyone has gone through the ladder of time and the stage of discussion, then it makes sense that there are only 8 people left here. Not everyone can pass these 2 checkpoints, and the rest have probably been eliminated. While Yang Kai was speaking, he turned his head to look at the others, and suddenly found that some star marks appeared on the backs of these guys' hands, even Murong Xiao. It seems that they had a good chance in the Temple of Time, but I only got a year fruit when I first arrived at Liangji Mountain and didn't find any other star seals. Have you finished talking nonsense, and act quickly when you are done, I don't have so much free time to waste time here. Luo Yuan urged impatiently. If it weren't for the fact that 8 people must be assembled to break the formation, why would Luo Yuan wait here? It has already killed the quartet and driven out the idlers. Yang Kai glanced at him, didn't say much, just nodded at Gong Wenshan and said, Brother Gong, I already understand the general situation, what should I do next, please advise. Gong Wenshan did his part, and the leader said, Since this is the case, everyone will obey my orders and stand wherever I tell you to stand, but don't move around. Although the 8 Directions Guiyuan formation is easy to crack, if there is any mistake, Although he didn't finish his sentence, everyone understood what he meant. Xiao Chen said with a smile, "Brother Gong, despite the instructions, it concerns everyone, I think no one will be ignorant." While speaking, intentionally or unintentionally, he glanced at Luo Yuan. Very good. Hearing this, Gong Wenshan smiled coldly and pushed forward suddenly between the seals of his hands. A layer of ripples visible to the naked eye spread, and the source force actually materialized, paving a seal of heaven and earth not far in front of everyone. Immediately, Gong Wenshan pointed his hand and said, "Please trouble this friend to stand up." He was referring to Luo Yuan. Luo Yuan was also sensible. Without saying a word, he straightened his body and landed exactly on the position designated by Gong Wenshan. "Madam, please step in and leave." He pointed to Yuqing again. "It makes people look a lot older." Bian Yuqing pursed her lips and complained, and also floated to the designated place. "You come to redeem." Gong Wenshan pointed to Yang Kai again. Yang Kai nodded and flew to Bian Yuqing's side. Next, under the guidance of Gong Wenshan, everyone fell to different positions and stood still. In her spare time, Bian Yuqing pursed her lips and smiled at Yang Kai. "I never thought that you brat could come here." "Why, look down on me." Yang Kai raised his brows and snorted coldly. "I have never seen Hufa Bian's strength." "That's right." Bian Yuqing smiled with interest and coquettishly. "Hearing what you said, I really want to see it. There are plenty of opportunities." Yang Kai gave her a blank look and then asked, "Where is senior brother Ko? Isn't he with you?" When Bian Yu heard the words, his expression darkened. Yang Kai said in surprise, "It won't be." Bian Yuqing sneered. "It's not what you think. Ko Wu knows that he is not strong enough, so he has stopped at the ladder of time." "Oh, this is a pity." Yang Kai let out a sigh. "Although there are endless dangers on the ladder of time, if you can step over it, you can also get a lot of benefits." Yang Kai has a deep understanding. Not only him, but the other 7 people who came here are stronger than before. It's obviously a credit to the time ladder. However, what Bian Yuqing said confirmed Yang Kai's previous guess. Everyone's chances were basically the same, especially in the later stage. They all passed the ladder of time and broke through the forum to reach this place. While the two were talking, everyone had already taken their seats, only Gong Wenshan was left alone. Standing outside the seal, Gong Wenshan checked carefully to confirm that everyone's positions were correct, and then he floated and fell to the last position. When he got his feet on the ground, he suddenly shouted, "Don't move at all, no matter what you feel, no matter what is abnormal, don't use your strength, or you will bear the consequences." Seeing that what he said was so serious, how could everyone not listen to his advice? They all held their breath and concentrated, letting themselves enter an ethereal state. Soon, there was a buzzing sound. The aura of heaven and earth around seemed to be swimming and running, triggering some chain reactions. And along with these movements, the buzzing in the void became louder and denser. Finally, accompanied by a strange sound, the sound of something collapsing came to everyone's ears. Until this moment, Gong Wenshan, who had been nervous all the time, let out a sigh of relief. He knew that the 8-direction Guiyuan formation could be destroyed by itself. Ka-cha-cha. There was a sound, and the door in front of everyone suddenly cracked a gap, and a light shot out from it. Then, the door slowly moved to the 2 sides, and the gap gradually widened. When the gap became big enough for one person to pass through, Gong Wenshan suddenly shouted, "Don't move yet." Everyone was startled, and the figures that were about to move all paused. But at this moment, Gong Wenshan rushed into the gate like an arrow from the string. "Oops, I fell for it." Kong Qi yelled angrily, and quickly chased after him. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to vote for recommendations and monthly tickets. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 2168 5 Treasures. Shish. In front of the main hall, there were people's shadows, and the remaining 7 people showed their skills and rushed forward. As the saying goes, those who get the first opportunity get a big deal. Gong Wenshan was the first to rush in, and the people behind him were anxious. In the blink of an eye, all the people had poured into the hall, each found a place to stand, squinting and looking forward. In front of it, the sun is shining brilliantly, and the aura is surging. It seems that there is an unworldly treasure, which has been buried for tens of thousands of years, waiting for the arrival of a new master. Rumbling. Just after everyone came in, the door was slowly closed again with a thunderous sound. Everyone was slightly startled, but they quickly calmed down and stopped paying attention, but raised their eyes and swept around the hall to check the situation. As far as I can see, there is a circular light gate at the far right of the main hall. The light is flowing, the halo is disillusioned, and the power of space is ups and downs. I don't know where it leads. The mind sinks. And 30 feet in front of everyone, there is a high platform. On the high platform, several things of different shapes bloom quietly. This is. After seeing a few things on the high platform, everyone showed shock and greed. There are not many things, only 5 pieces. A black oval shield with dragons and phoenixes engraved on the surface of the shield, with complex runes looming constantly, which is extremely mysterious. The size of a cherry drop, it looks like a drop of water. A group of colorful rays of light, like a strange existence that is as soft as water. A pill that looks like a panacea but is not a pill. A round bead the size of a longan, showing a fiery red color. A total of 5 treasures were placed on the high platform, and each treasure was covered by a layer of semicircular light curtain visible to the naked eye, which looked like an invisible large bowl was held on the high platform. Everyone glanced at the 5 treasures one by one, and finally fixed on another semicircular light curtain. Here, it seems that there was also a treasure, but I don't know why it disappeared. In other words, there were originally 6 treasures on the high platform, but at this moment, there were only 5 treasures left, and the other one was taken away by someone else. Gudong. Kong Chi swallowed a mouthful of saliva, stared at the pitch-black oval shield, and said with difficulty, is this a fake emperor treasure? I actually felt a trace of the power of the emperor. Everyone was dumbfounded, wondering if such a treasure had appeared in the depths of the Temple of Time. All of a sudden, everyone showed fanaticism, staring excitedly at the 5 treasures on the high platform, so excited that they couldn't contain themselves. Although it was unbearable, none of them dared to make any changes. Because everyone knows in their hearts that there are 8 people here, but there are only 5 treasures, which is not enough at all. If someone dares to act rashly, he is very likely to be regarded as a hostile target by others. It is possible to be out straight away. As strong as Luo Yuan, he suppressed the urge to move in his heart, and kept looking at the changes in other people's expressions. Your Highness, you have seen a lot, do you recognize what these things are? Gong Wenshan suddenly looked at Lan Xuan and asked. Lan Xuan's beautiful eyes were full of splendor, and she smiled when she heard the words, and said, how many do you recognize? Please teach me, Your Highness the Princess. Gong Wenshan said sincerely. Lan Xuan nodded lightly, pointed at the pitch-black oval shield and said, Brother Kong is right, this one is probably a fake emperor's treasure. What is the fake emperor treasure? Yang Kai asked without knowing it. As soon as this remark came out, everyone gave him strange looks, as if they felt that such a common-sense question was unknown, which was unbelievable. Bian Yuqing understood that Yang Kai was really ignorant. After all, he was a martial artist from a low-level star field, so she kindly explained to him, the emperor treasure is not refined, you should know about this kind of thing, right? Yang Kai nodded slightly. The birth of an emperor treasure requires years of sacrificial training and nurturing by warriors. Only after the warrior himself has been promoted to the emperor prestige realm, can he condense the secret treasure with the emperor's will and infuse his own understanding of the Tao of Heaven and martial Tao, can the emperor treasure be born. Some emperor prestige realms failed to succeed as they wished when refining their own secret treasures. They failed due to various reasons, but the power of the secret treasures did not lose, but increased. The secret treasure is the fake emperor treasure, which surpasses the Daoyuan level secret treasure, but cannot reach the level of the emperor treasure, so it can be regarded as a semi-finished product. Bian Yuqing said softly, with a solemn expression, a good fake emperor treasure, and it's no worse than ordinary emperor treasures, but some fake emperor treasures are only slightly better at Daoyuan level. So that's it. Yang Kai had a clear expression on his face. Bian Yuqing said again. However, this is a defensive secret treasure, even if it is a fake emperor's treasure, it is absolutely rare. The value is so high that it is far above the Daoyuan level top-rank secret treasure. If you get this shield, I am afraid that the emperor will no one under the dignity can break the defense. This is really a good thing. Yang Kai echoed, looking at the shield with a lot of fire. Although he had a lot of emperor treasures, he didn't have any defensive ones. If he could snatch this shield, he could make up for his own shortcomings. When he encountered a strong enemy, he could at least resist it for a while. Your Highness, please continue. Kong Qi glared at Yang Kai, as if blaming his ignorance for interfering with Lan Xuan's explanation. Lan Xuan didn't take it seriously, smiled slightly, pointed to a cherry-sized, water-like thing and said, If I'm not mistaken, this should be the legendary Tai Shenshui. Hiss. There was a gasp, and everyone was shocked. Is it really Tai Shenshui? Gong Wenshan's expression flickered, as if he had guessed but wasn't sure, but after hearing Lan Xuan's words, he immediately believed it. Murong Xiao asked in surprise, is it the kind of Tai divine water that can make the elixir grow rapidly with just a single drop? Not bad. Lan Xuan smiled and nodded, not knowing whether it was to take care of Yongkai or what. She slowly explained, just one drop of Tai Shenshui, any kind of elixir can grow to 1,000 years or even in a very short period of time. 10,000 years of the year, and this time, is just 1 month. Yongkai swallowed his saliva, and asked, Your Highness, what do you mean? If this thing is dripped on a stalk of spiritual grass, the elixir can reach the age of 10,000 years in a month. That's right. Lan Xuan nodded, and said calmly, although Tai divine water is not among the 3 major divine waters, in terms of efficacy and effect, it is much more precious than the 3 major divine waters at certain times. I have seen a few drops of Tai Shenshui before, so I recognize it. If other people say that they saw Tai Shenshui, they may still be skeptical, but when these words come from Lan Xuan's mouth, it will be different. Her status and even her background would not tell such a lie. If she said she had seen it, then of course she had really seen it. Yongkai's heart suddenly became hot. In the medicinal garden in his mysterious Shaoji, there is so much soil that the elixir can only grow at 100 times the rate. In other words, it takes 1 year for an elixir to grow to a century old. But this Tai Shenshui can make the elixir reach the age of 10,000 years in just 1 month. The gap is simply unreasonable. If this drop of Supreme One divine water was absorbed by the gold and silver 2-color tree, wouldn't this strange tree named Kang be able to have more sealing power for 10,000 years? With so much sealing power, he can release the seal on his abdomen anytime and anywhere, and fight against powerful enemies without any worries. At that time, he only needs to use the power of the green tree to reseal the magic energy and magic thoughts. Tai Shenshui is the source of all water. Its function is not limited to this. If it is absorbed by warriors who practice water-type exercises or water-type physiques, the benefits are simply immeasurable. Moreover, it can also refine water-type secret treasures, which are infinitely useful. Lan Xuan's explanation continued. Gong Wenshan exhaled slowly, cupped his fists and said, I have been taught, thank you, Your Highness the Princess. HMPH, Your Highness the Princess kindly explained this to you, so don't express anything later. Xiao Chen snorted coldly. Everyone hates him. Lan Xuan pointed to the treasure that emitted colorful rays of light and flowed like water, and said, I don't need to say more about this thing, don't you all recognize it? Kong Qi's face twitched, and he said harshly, could this be Di Yun? It's definitely Emperor Yun. Gong Wenshan seemed to have noticed it, and said in a deep voice. Lan Xuan smiled slightly, and said, that's right, this is the Emperor's rhyme. If you have it, you can fuse it with the secret treasure that is closely related to you. In time, it is very likely that an Emperor's treasure will be born. Emperor rhyme is the key to the birth of Emperor treasure. It is condensed by a strong Emperor Venerable realm and fused into the secret treasure. If it succeeds, it will become the Emperor treasure. If it fails, the secret treasure may be damaged or become a fake Emperor treasure. When the General Emperor Prestige realm condenses the Emperor treasure, they directly pour their own Emperor Yun into the secret treasure. The Emperor Yun contains the spirit of the Emperor Senior Realm Powerhouse, which is very rare. And this group of Emperor rhyme that can be presented outside is not something that can be condensed by ordinary emperors. It is stronger than Xiao Chen's father, and Xiao Yuyong, the Silver Star Envoy, does not have this ability. The only ones who can achieve this level are those who are at the 3rd level of Emperor Zun. And condensing a group of Emperor Yun is also a great loss to the Emperor Senior Realm Powerhouse, at least it will take hundreds of years of hard work to make up for it. Therefore, under normal circumstances, the Emperor Venerable 3rd level powerhouse would not condense the Emperor Yun and put it outside. And this Temple of Time has a copy. There is a fundamental difference between this thing and the pitch black shield. The pitch black shield has already been formed, and it is a fake Emperor treasure, and there is no possibility of being promoted to an Emperor treasure. However, this group of Imperial Rhyme represents infinite possibilities, but it requires time and effort. It is really hard to say which of the two is more valuable. If you like ready-made ones, you will naturally choose the pitch black shield. After all, it is a defensive secret treasure, and its value and preciousness needless to say. If you have the ambition to forge your own emperor treasure, you will undoubtedly fall in love with that group of emperor rhyme. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to vote for recommendations and monthly tickets. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 2169 Take 1 First. This is. Lan Xuan cast his eyes on the fourth treasure. It looked like a panacea, but it was not a panacea. It looked extremely strange. Lan Zundai frowned slightly, as if she was a little dazed, but soon, her expression lifted, and she said coquettishly, Diju pill. What? Luo Yuan, who hadn't opened his mouth all this time, exclaimed suddenly, Dewey pill. Are you sure you read it right? As soon as these words came out, Xiao Chen couldn't help snorting coldly. Pay attention to your words, the one in front of you is Your Highness the Princess. Luo Yuan turned his head and glanced at him, the eyes of the two met, and the flames radiated. Lan Xuan pursed his lips and smiled, and said, this should be the Emperor Ju pill, that's right, if Brother Luo doesn't believe it, he will break the restriction later, take it out and you'll know. I don't believe it, Luo Yuan snorted, it's just. I didn't expect such treasures to appear here. Lan Xuan nodded and said, I didn't expect that Dewey pill. I haven't seen it either, but I heard it from my father a few times, so I didn't recognize it for a while. But, Dewey pill has sealed the Emperor. If you can get this thing with a full-strength attack from a strong person in the respectable realm, it is equivalent to having a trump card. Hearing what she said, Yang Kai immediately understood what kind of mystery this Emperor Ju pill had, and how mysterious it was. This thing turned out to be the existence that sealed the full blow of an Emperor senior realm powerhouse. Its beauty is somewhat similar to the Star Emperor token he obtained in his hometown Starfield back then. In the Star Emperor Order, a kind of supernatural power of the Star Emperor is also sealed. All the people here are warriors at the Daoyuan level. If they can possess this Emperor Absolute Pill, who is the opponent at the same level? Even if you encounter Emperor Senior Realm, you are not without strength. As Lan Xuan said, this thing can indeed be used as a trump card, and it is the one that makes a final decision. Martial artist experience, who has not experienced the critical moment of life and death several times? At this critical moment, Emperor Ju pill is undoubtedly the best trump card. Everyone's breathing became rapid again, and their faces were full of heat. The last thing, Lan Xuan frowned again, looked at the fiery red bead the size of a longan for a while, then slowly shook her head and said, forgive me for being ignorant, I don't recognize it, what impression do you guys have? Quote. Even people like Lan Xuan didn't recognize the fiery red bead, let alone the others, all shook their heads, expressing that they had never seen this thing before. Lan Xuan smiled slightly, and said, no matter what it is, since it is placed here with other things, it must be extraordinary. Her words were not without purpose. Among the 5 things placed on the high platform, one is a defensive fake Emperor's treasure, 1 drop of Tai Shenshui, 1 piece of Emperor charm, 1 grain of Emperor's absolute pill, which one is not a priceless thing, which one is not a near-extinct treasure. In terms of value alone, it is really hard to say which is higher and which is lower. It makes no sense that the 5th item is useless. This fiery red bead is at least at the same level as other treasures, but no one knows what it does. Actually, Lan Xuan's beautiful eyes were blurred, and her gaze was fixed on the central position of the high platform, where there was an empty light barrier, and there was nothing inside. I'm more concerned, what is there in the first place? What does Your Highness Princess mean? Kong Qi asked. Lan Xuan said, within this restriction, there is a very strong Emperor's power left. If I guessed correctly, there should be an Emperor's treasure here. Dabao, really? No way. Even though everyone present had seen big winds and waves before, they were also surprised. Dabao is not something that can be obtained casually, so they couldn't help but exclaimed. It can't be wrong. Lan Xuan's tone was firm, and not long ago, this Emperor treasure was still here, but I don't know why it suddenly disappeared, otherwise the remaining power of the Emperor might not be so clear. Is someone here before us? Gong Wenshan's face darkened. Damn it, who got there first? Kong Qi also cursed angrily. Lan Xuan shook his head and said, it shouldn't be like this. If someone really climbed ahead of us, why did they only take 1 treasure? The rest are also rare treasures, so there is no reason to let them go. What's more, this prohibition it hasn't been damaged yet. What's the situation? Kong Qi was at a loss. I don't know either. Lan Xuan smiled helplessly. While the few people were talking, Yang Kai couldn't help flashing the Feng Taixia clothes in his mind. Recalling the emperor's prestige exuded by Zhang Ruoxi when she was wearing the phoenix-colored robe, and feeling the aura remaining on the high platform, Yang Kai immediately coughed dryly and said, "It doesn't matter if there was an emperor treasure here, since it's gone now. Then it means that we are not destined to wait, or talk about how to distribute the remaining things." As soon as he said this, the originally somewhat harmonious atmosphere suddenly became tense. All the people present secretly urged their source of strength, and opened the distance between them and other people without any trace, with vigilant and dignified eyes. There are 5 treasures, but there are 8 people, which obviously cannot be distributed evenly, and some people will definitely get nothing. They are all the proud sons of heaven, they are all powerful people, and no one wants to return empty-handed. "Everyone, Xiao has a proposal, I wonder if you would like to listen to it," Xiao Chen suddenly said with a smile. Kong Qi didn't know what he was going to do, but since he opened his mouth, it was not easy to stop him, so he could only follow the words. "Brother Xiao has any good strategies, you might as well tell them." The others also stared at him. Seeing this, Xiao Chen smiled heartily, and said, "In the southern territory, my star god palace is the most respected, and just now, Her Highness the Princess is willing to teach you and share a lot of information for you. Your Highness is benevolent and selfless, don't you all express it?" One time. When he said this, everyone suddenly had an unpleasant feeling. Sure enough, Xiao Chen continued, "Xiao feels that with the status of Her Royal Highness, it should be the first to take it. What do you all think?" Everyone immediately scolded Xiao Chen bloody in their hearts. It's just that it's not easy to get angry in front of Lan Xuan, everyone has a gloomy face and doesn't answer. Originally, there were not enough items, but now this guy actually proposed to let Lan Xuan take one first. This is simply an act like a robber, and it is shameless. If other people said such things, they would be drowned by the saliva star, but when Xiao Chen pulled Lan Xuan out, no one dared to be presumptuous. Given Lan Xuan's status, who dares to have any opinion on her? Do you still want to hang out in the southern region in the future? As strong as Luo Yuan, at this moment his face was full of gloom, and he didn't say a word. Don't look at him not shrinking back when facing impermanence, but he also knows that there are some people in this world who can't be offended at all, and Lan Xuan is one of them. Why, do you think Xiao's proposal is inappropriate? Xiao Chen pulled a tiger skin as a banner, and seeing that everyone was silent, he snorted coldly, "Or, do you all look down on my Xingshan palace?" When the big hat was buttoned up, Kong Qi immediately looked at Xiao Chen with the eyes that "I have defiled your old lady, and he has already greeted the 18 generations of his ancestors." This. Murong Xiao was kind-hearted, seeing that the atmosphere was so embarrassing, she didn't know how to ease the atmosphere after saying a single word, her face flushed anxiously. The others were silent and made no statement. Yang Kai looked at his words and saw that Lan Xuan's brows were slightly wrinkled, she seemed a little unhappy, knowing that this was definitely not what she had discussed with Xiao Chen, but the latter's arbitrariness, so he nodded secretly in his heart. He still has a good impression of Lan Xuan. If Lan Xuan really wants to use the prestige of the great emperor and the Star God Palace to seize treasures, I'm afraid everyone will be the same, but if this happens, Lan Xuan's image will plummet up. Furthermore, although these things on the high platform are extremely precious, as Lan Xuan's identity, he may not really see them. That pitch-black shield is nothing more than tasteless to her, because she herself has a defensive treasure bestowed by the emperor. It's useless for her to use Tai Shenshui. There are many spiritual herbs and wonderful medicines in the Star God Palace, and there are countless ages of various medicines. Why do you need Tai Shenshui to ripen them? As for Di Yun, she is only at the first level of Daoyuan, so it is useless to use it. And that Emperor Absolute Pill. If she really wants to, she just needs to act like a baby with Emperor Mingyu, and the Emperor will definitely refine a few for her. Anyway, the Emperor has profound skills and is not afraid of the consumption of hundreds of years of skills. In the tense atmosphere, Lan Xuan suddenly pursed his lips and said, "Since you have no objections, Brother Xiao Chen and I will take one first." Gong Wenchen raised his brows when he heard the words, as if he heard a hint of meaning behind his words. He looked at Lan Xuan in astonishment, but soon, the astonishment turned into relief, and he smiled slightly. After Kong Qi frowned, he also understood the meaning of Lan Xuan's words, smiled and nodded and said, "His Royal Highness wants to take one first, and Kong has no objection." "I have no objection," Bian Yuqing followed up. "All the people present are human beings." Although the meaning expressed by Lan Xuan is similar to that of Xiao Chen, but the intentions of the two are completely different, why can't they hear it? What about you? Lan Xuan turned to look at Luo Yuan and the others. Your Highness the Princess is who she is. Luo can't be trusted by others, but Her Highness the Princess can still be trusted. Lan Xuan nodded lightly. Thank you Brother Luo for giving this thin noodles. Luo Yuan has expressed his opinion, the rest of Yang Kai and Marong Xiaoxiao have any opinions. When everyone nodded in agreement, Xiao Chen was anxious, and said with red eyes, His Royal Highness. Lan Xuan withdrew the smile on his face, looked at him coldly, and said, Brother Xiao Chen, since everyone has no objections, I'll trouble you to run, it will belong to us. At this point, her beautiful eyes turned, she looked at the high platform, pointed casually, and said, Take back the false emperor treasure. The value of the 5 treasures is really hard to judge. Because everyone's needs are different, these 5 things work differently. But to Lan Xuan, among the 5 items, the one with the lowest value is the shield and fake emperor treasure. Because this thing is completely useless to her. Even the fiery red bead of unknown purpose might be a strange thing, which has some effect on her. But she still chose the fake emperor treasure. To be continued, this text is provided by the Breaking Dawn update group at Wei Hi Sheng Sheng. If you like this work, you are welcome to vote for recommendations and monthly tickets. Your support is my greatest motivation. Chapter 2170 Rob. Lan Xuan's choice undoubtedly sent a different signal. Although she doesn't want to overwhelm others with power, she doesn't want to return empty-handed, and regardless of whether those things are useful to her or not, she should have her own spoils if she has come here with her own ability. With her and Xiao Chen's strength he is definitely qualified to snatch at least one piece. But she didn't want to really have any conflicts with other people, fighting to the death for a useless gadget, so she chose a random, meaningful meaning. In this way, I have an explanation for myself and others. His Royal Highness, Xiao Chen shouted in a low voice, as if he wanted to persuade him. Lan Xuan's face was indifferent, and he said calmly, Brother Xiao Chen, do you want me to get it myself? Catching her gaze, Xiao Chen's heart sank, realizing that if he kept entangled, he might really offend Lan Xuan. Immediately, he gritted his teeth, squeezed out a smile, and said, Her Royal Highness, wait a moment, I will come as soon as I go. While he was speaking, his figure jumped up and he had already jumped onto the high platform. Some people played forward, worked hard, and went to test whether there was any danger on the high platform, while the rest of them naturally stared wide-eyed and observed. Fortunately, there are really no traps or dangers on the high platform except for the restrictions covering different treasures. Xiao Chen stood in front of the pseudo-emperor's shield, although there was a trace of unwillingness on his face, but he still could only sacrifice his long sword, urge the source force, and slash towards the semicircular barrier that was upside down on the high platform. Even if he didn't use all his strength for this blow, he used at least half of his strength, and he shot it with anger, so the power was naturally extraordinary. However, there was a flash of light on the long sword, and it fell fiercely on the light curtain. But the light curtain was extremely solid, but it was slightly dented by the huge force and the slash, and then bounced back directly, unscathed. Oh, seeing this scene, everyone was startled. While lamenting the strength of the restriction, they were also thinking about how much power they would need to use later to break the restriction and snatch the treasure. And Xiao Chen's sword was useless, and he seemed to be a little bit embarrassed. He retracted the long sword, shook it, and said slowly in his mouth, Mei Yin comes from the fragrance in the snow. Sword out, plum blossoms. A super powerful killer move is displayed at this moment, it is actually poetic and beautiful. A misty fragrance drifted over, lingering at the tip of everyone's noses, and the blossoming plum blossoms suddenly turned into countless fluorescent lights, which violently bombarded the light curtain. Violent vibrations came out, and above the light curtain, the light flickered wildly. Although the color continued to dim, there was still no sign of cracking. Xiao Chen's expression turned angry, and he turned the long sword again, and another extreme move suddenly appeared, the oblique moon drives the mirror to the sky. Another pleasing sword skill was displayed, and the berserk force continuously bombarded the light curtain. Click! On the light curtain, a crack finally appeared. Seeing this situation, Xiao Chen strongly urged Yuanli, and stabbed forward with a sword. There was a clatter, and the restriction was completely broken. Xiao Chen grabbed the fake emperor's shield in his hand, jumped, and landed beside Lan Xuan gracefully, saying, Your Highness, I got it. Lan Xuan nodded slightly, did not look at the fake emperor's shield, but smiled at the rest of the people, then. Lan Xuan, let's go, everyone, good luck. After finishing speaking, she turned around and walked towards the light gate standing on the right side of the hall. Although Xiao Chen was full of unwillingness, he had no choice but to follow behind Lan Xuan. Before leaving, he gave the others a hard look, as if to say that you were lucky this time. After a while, the two people from Xingshan Palace disappeared into the Gate of Light together, without a trace. Your Highness Princess, it's still very good. Kong Qi said suddenly after being silent for a while. Yes. Gong Wenshan nodded agreeingly. After all, she is the daughter of the great emperor, with a heart that is comparable to others, making Gong feel ashamed. You really should be ashamed. Kong Qi looked at him resentfully. At this moment, there was a burst of giggles, and Bian Yuqing looked around with beautiful eyes, and said, although Her Royal Highness and that entourage have left, the remaining people, the remaining things, seem to be still not enough points. On the high platform, there were originally 5 treasures, but now that the shield of the fake emperor treasure has been taken away, there are only 4 pieces left, but there are still 6 of them. I want to get one first. Luo Yuan suddenly said in a deep voice. Gong Wenshan cast his eyes over, curled his lips and said, why? Kong Qi also said, if you want to win the treasure, you naturally rely on your strength. I have no objection to Her Royal Highness taking one, but if you want to take one first, I have a big opinion. The Bafangmen, which Luo Yuan came from, can only be regarded as a middle school in the entire southern region. Kong Qi was born in the Qiao Chamber of Commerce. The backing behind him is not the same. How could Kong Qi be afraid of him here? Luo Yuan smiled proudly, glanced coldly at everyone, and said, anyone who is not convinced, you can come and have a try. Kong Qi couldn't help showing a gloomy look on his face, and nodded slowly. This friend's attitude really makes Kong a little uncomfortable. Kong wants to learn from my friend's tricks, I don't know, Bastard, what are you doing? Before Kong Qi finished speaking, his face suddenly changed drastically, and he couldn't help shouting sharply. The next moment, everyone was angry. Because just as the few people were arguing, Yang Kai had already swayed, came directly to the high platform, stretched out his hand and patted one of the restraining light curtains. How dare you? How dare you do that? Luo Yuan roared loudly, and with the force of his feet, he flew out. When the others saw this, they didn't hesitate, they used their body skills to chase them out, fearing that they would be one step behind. But, when Lan Xuan asked Xiao Chen to take the fake emperor treasure shield, everyone had already figured out what kind of treasure to snatch. After all, the remaining 4 treasures have different functions, and everyone's preferences are also different. So this time the 6 people rushed to the high platform, and the targets they chose were completely different. Yang Kai's goal was the fiery red bead that even Lan Xuan couldn't recognize and didn't know its purpose. The reason he chose this was not because he recognized him, but because of what Zhang Ruoxi had said before. She told Yang Kai that Changqi said that if there is a chance to enter the last place, you must choose the most useless thing. Among the remaining 4 treasures, whether it is Emperor Yun, Dewei Pill or Tai Shenshui, they are all treasures with great uses, but this fiery red bead looks the most useless because no one recognizes it. Changqi is the Holy Spirit, and he even gave Zhang Ruoxi a phoenix robe, so there is no reason to say such things to deceive him. So Yang Kai's target was this fiery red bead from beginning to end. And his choice was to avoid other people intentionally or unintentionally. No one is interested in this bead, even though they think it is absolutely extraordinary, but before knowing the specific effect, it is not worth the gain to snatch it rashly. It is of no use. So the remaining 5 people set their targets on the other 3 treasures. Among them, what Luo Yuan and Kong Qi are eyeing is the Emperor Ju Pill. The two thought very simply, the Emperor Ju Pill sealed the full blow of the Emperor Senior Realm Expert, and it was the strongest trump card. With it, you have the capital to save your life. As long as you are alive, there is hope for everything. And what Bian Yuqing and Gong Wenshan chose was that piece of imperial rhyme. This thing can sacrifice the root of the Emperor treasure, and its value is simply incalculable. Mirong Xiaoxiao originally wanted to snatch the Emperor Ju Pill, but when she saw that Luo Yuan's goal was the same as her own, she couldn't help but gritted her teeth, and immediately changed direction, rushed to the Tai Shenshui where no one was paying attention, and directly broke the restriction. Xiao Bai once told her that when alone, never have any conflicts with Luo Yuan, because this person is very dangerous, and Xiao Bai has no certainty of defeating him. Mirong Xiaoxiao is very well behaved and obedient, so naturally she will not disobey Xiao Bai's instructions. The 6 people were immediately divided into several areas, except for Yang Kai and Murong Xiaoxiao who were breaking the restriction alone. The remaining 4 were fighting in pairs. Among them, the fight between Kong Qi and Luo Yuan was particularly fierce. Neither of them would back down. While using their own methods to break the restriction, they also continued to undo their moves, creating a miasma of smoke on the high platform, and the aura sprinted away. As for Bian Yuqing and Gong Wenshan, it should be said that Gong Wenshan is worthy of being a master of formations. After he landed on the high platform, he directly sacrificed a formation card. Bian Yuqing also fell into it. No one can see what's going on. However, falling into the opponent's array, Yang Kai estimated that Bian Yuqing might be powerless, so he could only feel sorry for her silently in his heart. The scene of Xiao Chen cracking the restriction just now was vividly remembered. Everyone knew that the light curtain of the restriction was extremely tough and could not be broken at will. Naturally, he spared no effort at this moment. Yang Kai even directly used the dragon transformation secret technique, urging the immortal 5 elements sword qi, turning his hands into dragon claws, and smashing towards the forbidden light curtain. With no one interfering, he tried 5 times before breaking the restriction. As soon as the light curtain shattered, Yang Kai took out the fiery red beads and threw them into the space ring. He turned his head and saw that Luo Yuan and Kong Qi were refusing to give in to each other, and they were fighting against each other with one hand. Next to the restriction of the Emperor Ju Pill, their other hand was not idle, and they were using different method to break the prohibition. The forbidden light faded at a speed visible to the naked eye, as if it was about to be broken. Next to the 2 of them, the smog-shrouded Bian Yuqing and Gong Wenshan, not even a sound came out. On the outermost side, Murong Xiaoxiao anxiously urged his secret treasure, Yu Tianwan, constantly bombarding the light barrier of Tai Shenshui. Although she has tried her best, if she wants to crack it, at least she needs a few breaths of effort. Seeing this, Yang Kai flickered and came directly to Murong Xiaoxiao's side. Junior brother Yang. Murong Xiaoxiao pursed her red lips lightly and called out with a complicated expression. Yang Kai didn't answer. The 5 elements, immortal sword energy wrapped around the dragon's claws, matched with Murong Xiaoxiao's Yu Tianwan, and slapped fiercely towards the light curtain. With the combined strength of the 2, the restriction suddenly shattered. Yang Kai had quick eyes and quick hands, directly took out a jade bottle, filled the drop of Tai Shenshui, immediately threw it to Murong Xiaoxiao, gave a low drink, and said, "Let's go." To be continued. If you like this work, welcome you come to vote for recommendation votes, monthly tickets. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 2171 Freedom. Yang Kai is not a dissatisfied person. At this moment he only grabbed one treasure, and helped Murong Xiaoxiao get Tai Shenshui, so it is better to go first. When Murong Xiaoxiao heard the words, she had no objection. She immediately held the jade bottle in her palm, put away Yu Tianwan, followed closely behind Yang Kai. The 2 of them ran directly into the light gate and disappeared not see. And at the same time as the 2 left, on the high platform, accompanied by Luo Yuan's stern shout, the surging source force thundered away. Kong Qi's complexion changed drastically, and he exclaimed, "You!" As soon as the words fell, blood sprang from his mouth, and his nephew flew out. When he landed, his face was full of horror. He didn't expect that this Luo Yuan's strength was so powerful. At the same level as Dao Yuan's 3rd level cultivation base, at the last moment of the competition for Yuanli, he was able to directly repay himself. Kong Qi is also the proud son of heaven, the #1 rising star in the Qiao Chamber of Commerce, but compared with Luo Yuani, the 2 judged against each other. HMPH, overestimate yourself. After Luo Yuanjun opened Kong Qi, he didn't intend to chase after him and kill him. Instead, he slapped the forbidden light curtain with his palm, shattered it, and easily took away the seal that sealed Emperor Zun. The Emperor Ju Pill that the powerful in the realm hit with all their strength. Afterwards, he turned his gaze to the smoky place, and with a low shout, he rushed fiercely. But at this moment, the billowing mist voluntarily parted to the 2 sides, and when Luo Yuan rushed to it, the dense mist burst like an illusory bubble and disappeared completely. Bian Yuqing was the only one there, looking around in a daze, gnashing her teeth. A figure flashed past like a ghost, rushed towards the light door, got in quickly, and disappeared. Emperor Yunhong. Despite some guesses, Luo Yuan still gave Bian Yuqing a deep drink. Bian Yuqing said with an aggrieved face, "I don't know. I'm trapped in that smoke, I can't see anything." Trash. Luo Yuan cursed, and after chasing that figure, he disappeared into the light gate. As expected, that figure should be Gong Wenshan without a doubt, and Kenan snatched Di Yun and ran away. What the hell am I doing? Bian Yuqing was so wrong. In the blink of an eye, only Kong Qi, who was pale and bleeding from the corner of his mouth, and Bian Yuqing, who was full of disappointment, were left in the hall. The latter looked at the former, pursed his lips and smiled, and said, "This little brother." Kong Qi glanced at her, and smiled miserably. "Don't shout so affectionately, I got nothing, it's useless to think about me." Bian Yuqing pursed her lips resentfully and said, "A group of animals are mad at me to death. In a fight for strange treasures, except for Lan Xuan and Xiao Chen who left the field at the beginning, only she and Kong Qi got nothing, and the rest of them divided all other treasures equally, which naturally made the Bian Yuqing was very annoyed. In terms of cultivation, she is not the lowest among all the people, and in terms of strength, she doesn't think she will be at the bottom, but the end result is that she returns empty-handed in front of such an opportunity, which is naturally unacceptable to her. Outside the Temple of Time, somewhere, light flashed, and Yang Kai and Murong Xiaoxiao appeared together. Yang Kai immediately released his spiritual sense, checked the surroundings, and he was relieved after confirming that there was no danger. There is no sign of other people appearing nearby, and it is not known whether they have been teleported to other places, but the light gate is indeed a passage to leave the Temple of Time, there is no doubt about it. After waiting for a while, there was still no sign of the others. Yang Kai immediately understood that unless Ran Shi passed through the light gate, the location where he appeared should be different. He turned his head and glanced at Murong Xiaoxiao, who was looking at him gratefully, just because Yang Kai helped her get Tai Shenshui at the last moment, and did not take the opportunity to snatch it, it was enough to make Murong Xiaoxiao endlessly grateful. At that time, Yang Kai can take the opportunity to start, and definitely have the opportunity to occupy the Tai Divine Water. When Murong Xiaoxiao opened her mouth and was about to say something, a sudden change occurred. In the sky, suddenly there was a muffled thunderous buzzing sound, which was so loud that it spread all over the field, and all warriors within a radius of 100 miles could hear it clearly. And at the same time as the sound came out, the Temple of Time floating in the sky was emitting a dazzling light, which made people unable to open their eyes. The astonishing coercion spread from there and filled the four flails. Rumbling, the noise continued. "Junior brother Yang," Murong Xiaoxiao yelled with a solemn expression. Yang Kai didn't answer, but squinted and looked over there for a while before sighing. "This temple seems to be hiding again, and I don't know what kind of opportunity it will take next time, let alone how long it will take to wait. What year is it?" As he said, after the dazzling light dissipated, the Temple of Time in the sky really ceased to exist. Just as it appeared strangely, it once again disappeared into the void. However, where the temple was originally located, there was a black dot standing there. "This is..." Yang Kai stared intently, his eyes shrinking involuntarily. But in the sky, a strange beast appeared out of thin air. This beast was burning with flames all over its body. It was extremely tall, majestic. Its nostrils spew out a flame-like breath, melting the void, the ground where the 4 feet step, the flames burn, and the space is distorted. "Qingqi!" Yang Kai exclaimed in shock. Murong Xiaoxiao couldn't help covering her red lips with her small hands, her beautiful eyes trembling violently. Born in Qingyang Temple, and an elite disciple in the sect, she has naturally heard the name Changqi. These two simple words represent Zhou as extremely vicious, endless killing, and eternal despair. Even in ancient times, Holy Spirit Changqi was a notoriously vicious beast. Countless heroes died in its flames, and few strong men could develop a heart of resistance in front of it. At this moment, it just stood quietly in the void, but the brutal and fierce breath was like a deadly poisonous gas, making the creatures within 100 miles unable to breathe and trembling all over. Within 100 miles, all warriors who felt this ferocious coercion sank, as if a mountain of 10,000 feet was pressed on their shoulders, and there was a sense of impending death in their hearts for no reason. Roar! The roaring sound was transmitted, and Changqi roared up to the sky. There were extremely complex emotions in the voice, like joy, excitement, and sadness. Immediately, it squinted and closed, looked around, and its eyes burning like flames were fixed somewhere in the void, stretched out a claw, smashed through the void, drilled in, and disappeared. The place of the 4 seasons, the nameless valley. This place is no longer aura, extremely depressed, only a huge oval light gate still exists in the midair. And many martial artists who originally gathered here also poured into the land of 4 seasons a few days ago, and only a few of the Emperor's senior realm powerhouses who are leading the team are still here. Xiao Yuyang from Star God Palace, Gao Shueding from Qingyang Temple, Chen Wenhao from Tianwu Holy Land, Feng Ming from Wuhua Palace, Zheng Yuan from Qiao Chamber of Commerce, Lu Kai from Ziwan Chamber of Commerce. These powerhouses stay here, on the one hand, to observe the changes in the entrance of the Four Seasons land, so as not to make up for any accidents, and on the other hand, they are also waiting for their elite disciples to return. Since those Daoyuan-level powerhouses entered the land of the Four Seasons, these emperor-level people looked for their own positions and meditated to rest. For strong men like them, waiting for 33 days is not a big deal. Maybe it is just to comprehend the mysteries of the exercises, or maybe it is just to sacrifice a little bit to the emperor treasure. The 33 days have passed, so no one is bored at all. Suddenly, Xiao Yuyang opened his eyes as if feeling something. A pair of pupils showed a trace of bewilderment, and soon, this trace of bewilderment turned into shock and astonishment. The next moment, all the emperors stood up one after another, their eyes widened, and they looked in the same direction. There, a gap suddenly opened in the void, and as soon as the gap appeared, it collapsed into a big hole. From the gap, a terrifying pressure fell out that made everyone present tremble with fear. Under the eyes of everyone, a fiery red beast that burned like a flame slowly stepped out of it. Ha 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 ha, my uncle, I'm free at last. As soon as the strange beast appeared, he suddenly spit out human words and laughed wildly, like a prisoner who had been imprisoned for countless years and had just escaped. Holy Spirit, Changqi. After observing the strange beast for a while, Xiao Yuyang couldn't help exclaiming in surprise, urging him to move with all his strength. The faces of the other emperors also sank, and without any explanation, they all moved closer to Xiao Yuyang. Those in the Emperor Senior realm know the horror of Changqi better than anyone else. They never expected that in this nameless valley, a holy spirit would suddenly appear, and Changqi, who is known for being fierce. Zheng Yuan, the vice president of Qiao Chamber of Commerce, was shaking his calf and his face was extremely pale. Oh, Changqi glanced down with his animal pupils, and said in a drawn-out voice, I saw so many delicious meals as soon as I came out. When it spoke, there was a stream of crystal-clear saliva at the corner of its mouth, as if it had been hungry for a long time. Gudong. The sound of swallowing saliva was heard, and the source was not Changqi, but the emperors gathered in one place. Almost everyone was shocked by Changqi's words. The words of the Holy Spirit are not overreaching. Any mature Holy Spirit will not be weaker than a great emperor. If it really wants to use the Emperor's senior realm present as food, few of them will be able to escape this situation. Robbery. At the critical moment, Xiao Yuyang was the first to come back to his senses. He quickly cupped his fists and shouted in a deep voice, Xiao Yuyang, the Silver Star Envoy of Star God Palace, pay homage to Mr. Changqi. I don't know, my lord, why did he appear here? Xingshan Palace. Hearing Changqi's words, a trace of disdain flashed in the beast's pupils. What the hell? It has never even heard of the overlord sect of the southern region. Xiao Yuyang couldn't help sinking in his heart, realizing that something was wrong. This might just be a holy spirit that had been sleeping for countless years, so he hadn't even heard of the Star God Palace. The plan to let him use the name of Emperor Mingyu to intimidate the other party was impossible. It doesn't work. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to vote for recommendations and monthly tickets. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 2172 Winter Domain. It's an honor for you to be my uncle's bread and butter. Which one of you will come first? Changqi asked in a deep voice, his eyes wide open. No one dared to answer. Every Emperor Senior Realm's face was pale, his body trembled slightly, and his heart was extremely depressed. Don't talk. Why? Changqi sarcastically said, if you don't talk, then I can choose one at random. You can't escape the left and right. It's just the difference between sooner and later. Don't be afraid. Master Xiao. Lu Kai, the vice president of the Ziwan Chamber of Commerce, couldn't help but let out a low voice, and looked at Xiao Yuyang eagerly, as if pinning his hopes on him. Xiao Yuyang's complexion sank, realizing that it would be too late if he didn't make a move, so he could only sacrifice a golden mirror-like thing, which exploded suddenly as soon as it appeared. And at the same time that the mirror-shaped thing exploded, a gentle but sea-like coercion descended from the sky, and a majestic figure slowly emerged from the shattered space. Everyone turned their heads to look, their faces could not help but become solemn, and they all showed reverence and worship towards the figure. But seeing this man with a jade belt and a golden crown, his figure is as tall and straight as a mountain, his aura is as deep as an abyss, and his aura is unfathomable. When he appeared, his figure was illusory and ethereal, obviously not a real entity, but at the next moment, two substantial eyes pierced through the void and directly fixed on Changqi. As strong as Changqi, he couldn't help but hold back his breath, and said with a cold snort, "The Emperor's soul has descended." From this phantom, it felt the aura that only the great Emperor had, and naturally understood what the figure in front of him was. This is clearly the overlord of this piece of heaven and earth, a ray of soul of Emperor Mingyu. Just like the two most dazzling lights in the darkness, when Changqi put all his attention on the great Emperor was also paying close attention to each other. "I don't know that there is still Changqi between heaven and earth," Mingyu said suddenly. Changqi said coldly without showing any weakness, "When I was free and unrestrained, you didn't even know if you were born or not. Why are you pretending to be garlic in front of me?" With the look in his eyes, he said with disdain, "Why, do you think that my uncle will be afraid if a mere spirit descends?" This man and a beast, between the words colliding, it is like the ups and downs of physical energy, the colliding void collapses, the coercion fills the sky, and the tiny space cracks travel around. In an instant, the sky and the earth are dark, flying sand and rocks, and the nameless valley is about to collapse. Xiao Yuyang and the others didn't dare to say a word. Everyone stood there with a dignified expression, secretly urging their source power to resist the terrifying coercion coming from all directions. Master Changqi is joking. As one of the few strong men in the world, Mingyu didn't mind Changqi's arrogant attitude at all. Out. Changqi's eyes sank, and he said in a low voice, "What do you know?" Mingyu said, "When I was young, I heard that Lord Suiyu had a playmate who was Changqi Holy Spirit. Unfortunately, since Lord Suiyu passed away, this playmate has also disappeared for tens of thousands of years. I don't know if Sir Suiyu still remembers it. The happy time back then. Years." Changqi seemed to be awakened by Mingyu's words that had been silent for countless years, and the arrogance and violence gradually disappeared, and his pair of burning beast eyes were full of memories. Mingyu stood there quietly, and didn't intend to disturb it, and Xiao Yuyang and others didn't even dare to move. After a long time, Mingyu said, "I don't know if Lord Changqi would like to come to my Star God Palace to talk about it. There is a relic of Lord Suiyu here in this seat, or you can pass it on to Lord HMPH, it's useless to please me." Changqi snorted, shaking his head, and then said, "My uncle is hungry." Mingyu smiled and said, "I will prepare it for you." "That's about the same," Changqi said loudly. "Since you have invited me so sincerely, then I will give you a thin noodle, so why not go there? Mingyu is waiting for your lord's good news. This is the location of my Star God Palace." Mingyu said, stretching out her hand and pointing forward. From the fingertips, a ball of white light slowly flew out, coming in front of Changqi. Changqi swallowed it in one gulp, stood in place and meditated for a moment, then turned in one direction and disappeared into flames. After Changqi left, Xiao Yuyang and the others breathed out suddenly, the breeze blew, and the back was sticky and cold. Mingyu turned around and took a look at the crowd. Without saying anything, her body shook and turned into countless white lights, dissipating between the sky and the earth. "Congratulations, my lord," all the emperors bowed and said. After a long while, the 6 Emperor Senior Realms slowly straightened up, looked at each other, and saw the fear in each other's eyes. They are also the strongest in the world, but since they were promoted to the Emperor Senior Realm, there has never been a day like today, so close to death. "Thanks to Mr. Xiao, otherwise today's matter," Zhang Yuan said with lingering fear. "That's right, if it wasn't for Master Xiao, I'm afraid I would really die here today." Lu Kai also nodded in agreement. The corners of Xiao Yuyang's mouth twitched, and he said with a wry smile, "It was the Emperor who saved us, it was not due to Xiao. But, Qingqi is now in this world, and this southern region may be in trouble again and again." When everyone heard what he said, their hearts sank. Changqi is a ferocious beast, which itself represents disasters and wars. Its presence in the world will definitely set off some unpredictable and extremely ferocious frenzy. Everyone secretly decided that after returning to the sect, they must report this matter to the suzerain. Take precautions. In the land of 4 seasons, Yang Kai walked alone, crossed the 2 Seasons Mountain, and headed towards the winter domain. Not long ago, when he and Marang Xiaoxiao were standing in the 2 Seasons Mountain and waiting, the latter contacted Xiao Bai not far away through the Zongman's communication compass. After meeting each other, Xiao Bai naturally didn't give Yang Kai any good looks. After all, on the Dao discussion stage at that time, although Yang Kai defeated Xiao Bai openly and above board, it can be regarded as a way for Xiao Bai to continue to explore and obtain opportunities. If not, Xiao Bai would at least occupy a place in the palace where the few treasures were to be snatched at the end. Maybe he would have some great gains. Yang Kai knew that Xiao Bai had a knot in his heart, so he didn't stay for long, and after talking to the two of them, he went to the Winter Realm alone. On the way, he took out the fiery red bead to observe, but he didn't know what the purpose of the bead was. No matter whether he used his divine sense to detect it or poured it into it, the bead had no effect. Reaction. In desperation, Yang Kai could only put it into the space ring for the time being. At this moment, the Two Seasons Mountain was peaceful. I don't know if it was because of the appearance of the Temple of Time not long ago, or because of Changqi's appearance, so Yang Kai didn't even encounter a single monster along the way. 2 days later, he successfully crossed the Liangji mountain. Ahead is a completely different world. In the eyes are white, covered with silver, and the snow is flying heavily, and the snow on the ground is more than 10 feet thick. As soon as you step into this place, the ubiquitous cold will wrap your body and pour into the body along the pores, making the blood cold and the soul condensed. Yang Kai braved the wind and snow to explore in this white world. In the land of 4 seasons, the natural environment of each domain is completely different. In the summer domain, the sun is scorching and the temperature is extremely high, but in this winter domain, it is actually a world completely opposite to the summer domain. The environment in which the catastrophe fruit grows is extremely cold, and such an environment as the winter realm is indeed easy to produce this kind of spiritual fruit. Yang Kai had a glimmer of hope in his arms, but he didn't feel how difficult it was to explore like this. He walked all the way, wading through mountains and rivers in the winter realm, and crossing mountains and ridges. Although he occasionally gained some harvests, they were all uncommon spiritual flowers and fruits, and he did not see a trace of disasters. The ubiquitous cold made the energy in his body drain at least 20% faster than usual. In desperation, he could only call out Lu Yan to walk with him. Lu Yan is the body of the fire weapon spirit, devouring all kinds of heaven and earth fires, so she is not afraid of the cold in this area. Not only that, she stays beside Yang Kai, so Yang Kai can't feel much cold. Lu Yan was also very close to Yang Kai's side all the time, using his own heat to dispel the cold air around Yang Kai all the time. Unlike other domains, this winter domain seems to be rarely seen. Even if some warriors were teleported here when they first entered, they would probably find a way to leave this ghost place in the shortest possible time. Unless Yang Kai has a special purpose and has to come to the winter domain, I am afraid that no one will stay in this environment for a long time. So Yang Kai stayed here for a few days, but he didn't even see half of the figure. It seemed that he was the only one in the entire winter domain. 3 days later, somewhere in the winter realm, Yang Kai looked around with a dazed look on his face. He has been completely lost in this silver-white world, and at this moment he is not even clear about the direction. It is basically impossible for a strong man like him to have such a situation, but the environment in this winter domain is too harsh and special. Even Yang Kai can't walk here freely and remember the way down. When he looked back, he saw that the footprints he had just left had been covered with snow. "What's wrong?" Lu Yan asked with concern. "Well, it seems to be lost," Yang Kai replied calmly. Lu Yan pursed his lips and smiled. "There is such a thing. It's okay, the big deal is that if you fly in one direction, you will always leave here." Speaking of this, Yang Kai couldn't help sighing. However, it's hard to get anything from such a purposeless search. "Unfortunately, I can't help you with anything," Lu Yan replied sadly. Yang Kai grinned. "Staying by my side is the greatest help." The corner of Lu Yan's mouth twitched into a smile, and the next moment, she suddenly let out a sound of surprise. Yang Kai noticed something different and quickly looked at her. Lu Yan stood there, her beautiful eyes staring at a certain direction, her expression constantly changing. After a long time, she said, "Master, I seem to have found something very interesting." "What?" Yang Kai asked. "Wait for me, I'll come as soon as I go." While speaking, Lu Yan turned into a flame and rushed forward. After a while, he fell into a snow peak in front and disappeared. Recommended books. The latest masterpiece of urban superpowers by the great history god Zhengxin, the domineering wizard, has been updated with nearly 200,000 words. Wu, do not establish written words, but pass on word of mouth. Wu, it is difficult to have both, only the winner will survive forever. When a witch rises, it is the day when another witch falls. That year, Yongmu came from the African continent. All he wished in his life was to fulfill his master's last wish, to become a real spirit witch and to see the atmosphere of the mysterious world. Link. New degree oi times e and fr equals all a 0. Chapter 2173 Little Snowflake. In the wind and snow, Yang Kai stood on the spot and waited for 3 hours before Lu Yan returned from the ice peak. Seeing her mysterious look, Yang Kai couldn't help being aroused, and asked, "What did you do there?" Lu Yan didn't answer, but rushed aside and said, "Come out, don't be afraid." Wherever she looked, there was nothing. Yang Kai was stunned, but he also knew that Lu Yan should not play tricks on him, so he held his breath and carefully observed there. "It's a pity that there is still nothing," Lu Yan said helplessly. "Master, wait a moment, it seems to be a little timid, let me talk to it." After saying that, Lu Yan squatted down, her beautiful eyes stared at the bottom of the snow, her spiritual thoughts surged, as if she was communicating with someone. There was no response for a long time. Lu Yan was suddenly a little annoyed, his expression darkened, and he said coldly, "If you don't come out again, I will melt you." As the words fell, the flat snow suddenly bulged out, as if something was coming out from below. Yang Kai couldn't help but widen his eyes to observe, secretly surprised. Not long after, the accumulated avalanche flew out, and suddenly something shot out from under the snow, turning into a streamer of light, dancing non-stop in midair. Although it was fast, Yang Kai could still see it clearly. It was a snowflake the size of a palm. It's just that this snowflake is completely different from ordinary snowflakes. It seems to have a certain spirituality and its own thinking. Not only that, but there are also flame-like lines on its body surface, burning continuously, making the surrounding air distortion. "What is this?" Yang Kai asked in surprise, his eyeballs almost protruding. Lu Yan said, "I can't tell, but it should be similar to my main body." While she was talking, she hooked her fingers at the snowflake, and the flying snowflake immediately settled down and fell in front of her, but she didn't dare to get too close no matter what. Yang Kai looked at this snowflake with interest, and suddenly found that there was a trace of facial features in the center of it, although it was not clear, but it was undoubtedly facial features. "Natural wonders," Yang Kai snorted. "This snowflake is probably a kind of strange thing created by the special environment of the winter realm over the years. It is afraid that no one in the world knows what kind of existence it is." "It is." Lu Yan nodded, "but it is also a kind of ice flame. If it weren't for that, I wouldn't be able to feel its existence." Hearing what she said, Yang Kai immediately understood. Lu Yan itself is in the shape of a weapon spirit, devouring all kinds of strange fires of heaven and earth. The essence of this snowflake is probably a kind of strange fire of heaven and earth, so there is an inexplicable feeling between Lu Yan and it. It's just that the cold and the heat are mutually restraining, so this little Shuihua dare not approach Lu Yan at all, and is extremely afraid of her. "You brought it here, what do you want to do?" Yang Kai asked strangely. Logically speaking, Lu Yan can completely devour this kind of ice flame. Although the opponent's attribute is cold, he has already developed spiritual wisdom, which has a great effect on the growth of Lu Yan. But she didn't mean to devour it, instead she brought it to Yang Kai, which meant that Lu Yan didn't want to use it to improve her strength. "It's very familiar with this place, it can help us find things." Lu Yan smiled slightly. "Good idea." Yang Kai's eyes lit up when he heard it. Lu Yan frowned and said, "However, its mind is very limited, it is very difficult to communicate, and I don't know if it can play a role. It's better than searching aimlessly like me." Yang Kai grinned. "As for the effect, just try it and you'll know." While speaking, he looked softly at the snowflake, and said, "Is there something good here? Take me to find it." Little snowflake remained indifferent, quietly suspended in midair. Yang Kai looked embarrassed, looked at Lu Yan and said, "Can't it understand?" Lu Yan pursed his lips and smiled. "It has never seen a living person, so how can it understand human speech? I can only rely on divine thoughts to communicate with it." Saying this, Lu Yan suddenly had a surge of spiritual thoughts, which passed to Xiao Shuihua. This time, the other party obviously understood something, swayed slightly in midair, and then suddenly shot in one direction. Yang Kai and Lu Yan looked at each other and immediately followed. After a while, under the guidance of Xiao Shuihua, Yang Kai and Lu Yan came to a valley together. On a certain piece of snow, Xiao Shuihua stopped and continued to circle around a place. "There should be something good here," Lu Yan said. Just look at it. As Yang Kai spoke, he had already started to move, and when the source force urged him, the snow in that area flew out. After a stick of incense, a huge deep pit appeared on the spot, and Yang Kai buried his head to search for it. After a while, he jumped out with a happy face, and in his hand was a spiritual herb that looked like a jade carved from ice. Not bad. Yang Kai smiled and looked at Xiao Shuihua approvingly. It's really useful, much better than I was looking for blindly. As if he understood Yang Kai's praise, the little snowflakes flew around Yang Kai several times, and then landed on his shoulders, showing a joyful expression on the fuzzy traces of his facial features. Seeing this situation, Yang Kai immediately understood that the other party's thinking should be very simple. After all, it was born in this winter domain and has never touched other creatures. Its spiritual world is as pure and flawless as a piece of white paper, otherwise how could a random compliment make it so happy? Do it well, or I'll melt you. Lu Yan sang a black face at the right time. Her pretty face was cold, her murderous intent was obvious. Xiao Shuihua was so scared that she shivered and hid behind Yang Kai. Clinging to him, a corner of his shoulder was exposed, and he looked timidly at Lu Yan. Yang Kai couldn't help but glared at Lu Yan. The latter stuck out his tongue at him, and when the four eyes met, everything was silent. After a while, Yang Kai rolled his eyes and said, "Let it take me to find the most precious thing here. If there is any treasure along the way, don't let it go." Lu Yan nodded, released his spiritual sense, and conveyed Yang Kai's meaning. Xiao Shuihua got the order, and immediately rushed out, leading the way ahead. With this kind of natural wonder leading the way, Yang Kai really saved a lot of trouble. He didn't need to search for anything deliberately. In this snow field, any genius or treasure could not escape Xiao Shuihua's detection. As long as it flying a few times in a certain place, Yang Kai knew that there must be something good under the snow. Along the way, Yang Kai's space ring has many more ice attribute spirit grasses, and they are all Daoyuan level, and there are even Emperor level spirit grasses. The special environment of the winter domain has created good growth conditions. Many spiritual herbs have not been discovered since the day they were born. Until now they were collected by Yang Kai under the guidance of Xiao Shuihua. No matter what kind of spiritual grass and wonderful medicine it is, it must be at least 10,000 years old. Yang Kai gained a huge harvest. And with the contact along the way, Xiao Shuihua seems to be getting acquainted with Yang Kai gradually. She is no longer as timid as before. It is like a newborn child, full of strong love for creatures like Yang Kai. Curiosity, flying around him from time to time, observing Yang Kai from a special angle. But, because Lu Yan always played a black-faced role along the way, and threatened her from time to time, Xiao Shuihua naturally respected and feared her, and she dared not approach within 10 feet of Lu Yan's haunt. As a result, Yang Kai and Lu Yan had to be separated by a certain distance. Although he had gained a lot, what disappointed Yang Kai was that he didn't get the fruit of calamity. He has bought several things that are more rare than the fruit of disasters, but the thing he wants the most is still missing. He also knew that there was no rush for such a thing, so he could only settle down with the situation. A few days later, Yang Kai suddenly stopped and looked at the scene ahead in amazement. Not far in front of him, there is a sparkling lake. This lake covers a large area, about tens of acres of land, surrounded by high mountains, and the scenery is extremely beautiful. What surprised him was that such a lake showed no signs of freezing. The goose feather snow fell from the sky, and it melted as soon as it touched the lake, as if the lake had some magical power, so that it would never freeze due to the cold. The water surface was so clear that Yang Kai even saw some strange fish swimming in the water. But judging from the big mouths of these fishes full of fangs, it is obvious that they are not easy to mess with. But here, the little snowflake stopped moving forward, and kept dancing around Yang Kai, sending out a strange emotion from its body. After being in contact with it for so long, Yang Kai also learned to figure out its thoughts through its behavior, so when he saw it like this, Yang Kai asked thoughtfully, "You want to say, the most precious thing, right at the bottom of the lake?" As soon as these words came out, little snowflake immediately floated up and down, as if nodding. Yang Kai was sure, nodded and said, "I'll go and see." "Master, be careful," Lu Yan said with concern. Yang Kai nodded, leapt forward, and after reaching the top of the lake, he looked left and right, then swooped down and rushed into the lake. A martial artist like him doesn't have to worry about his clothes being wet by the lake water at all. He only needs to activate the source force to form a protection on the body surface, and he can move freely underwater. The power of the source of Tao spread out, and the fish around him scattered like birds and beasts. Although the fish at the bottom of the lake looked ferocious and frightening, they didn't have much strength, so naturally they didn't dare to approach them. Little Snow Flower didn't follow, so Yong-kai didn't know where the so-called most precious thing was, but it should be right to go to the center, so he checked the surrounding environment and swam to the center of the lake. On the shore, Lu Yan watched quietly. Her beautiful eyes were staring at Yong-kai's direction, waiting for the slightest situation to immediately go to support, while Xiao Shuihua was floating at a distance of more than 10 feet away from her. The fuzzy facial features showed a worried expression, and from time to time, they fluttered a few times uneasily. To be continued. This text is provided by the Breaking Dawn update group at Cha Shang Meng Wei. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to the first release to vote for recommendations and monthly tickets. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 2174. Another bead. The lake water was icy cold, but still within the range of tolerance. Yong-kai went deep all the way, but there was no danger. The only thing around was the sound of his own heartbeat. Leisurely, Yong-kai seemed to have a sense, and stared in a certain direction. Over there was a sound of splashing water. As far as he could see, Yong-kai saw an unbelievable scene. In the very center of the lake, there was a woman bathing in the lake. This woman had smooth black hair, picturesque eyebrows, a delicate face, and exposed fragrant shoulders. The thin water mist made her look extremely unreal, as if shrouded in a layer of mist. The surface of the lake is shimmering, and the clear lake water reflects the body parts of the woman immersed in the water, which makes people's blood pumping and their imagination infinite. At this moment, the woman was holding a soft hand slightly, and scooped up water from her face with the other hand, and slowly wiped her snow-white and flawless skin, as if she hadn't noticed Yong-kai's arrival. But, when Yong-kai cast his gaze away, the other party obviously felt something, and turned his head to look over. That pair of beautiful eyes, as bright as stars, exudes a different kind of radiance, which makes people reluctant to look away after one glance, as if they are about to sink into it. Looking at each other, Yong-kai's expression was stunned, but it was the woman who pursed her lips and smiled with a soul-stirring smile. A layer of halo that cannot be seen by the naked eye diffused from there, covering Yong-kai. Yong-kai's expression became even more dull. The woman grinned, and that smile suddenly became incomparably ferocious, and she opened her mouth immediately, and the original small cherry mouth turned into a ferocious giant mouth under this grin, biting towards Yong-kai. Even after a distance of more than a dozen feet, this ferocious giant mouth swallowed Yong-kai whole, and even the lake where Yong-kai was located also swallowed a lot. As soon as the giant mouth closed, the scene where the woman was located twisted and changed. There was no scene of a beauty coming out of the bath. Instead, it was a strange beast of a strange size, constantly chewing something. This strange beast is really indescribable. It presents a spherical shape as a whole, about 3 or 4 feet in diameter, with a pitch-black body surface, and on the body surface, there are more than a dozen pairs of eyes densely covered with 7 or 8 tentacles like tentacles, constantly dancing. On the shore, Lu Yan, who had been closely following Yong-kai's movements, couldn't help but her pretty face sank when she saw this scene, but she didn't show much worry because she could feel that Yong-kai was fine. On the contrary, Xiao Shuihua was taken aback, and flew around at high speed, as if she wanted to rescue Yong-kai but didn't dare. Hee, monster beasts proficient in soul attack are rare. Yong-kai's voice came from somewhere in the void like a ghost, and the next moment, his figure was revealed, standing on top of the round beast, above, seemingly unharmed. When the scene of the woman taking a bath appeared in the field of vision, Yong-kai felt something was wrong. Which sect's female disciple would take a bath in such a ghostly place? Dao Source Realm warriors who entered the land of the 4 seasons did not have such leisure. At first, he thought that the girl-like existence was transformed by a monster, but after being attacked, he suddenly realized that it was a kind of spiritual shock. The beauty bathing or something was just an illusion that appeared in front of him after being attacked. It's just that this phantom is too real, even Yong-kai couldn't break it immediately. After figuring this out, it's easy to deal with it naturally. When the real fatal attack arrives, one teleport can escape. As soon as Yong-kai's words fell, the chewing beast suddenly stopped. A dozen pairs of eyes on its spherical body looked at Yong-kai, and immediately opened its mouth wide, spitting out the lake water in its mouth. At a certain position directly in front of the body, a mouth-like existence split open, densely covered with fangs, and an angry howl sounded from the mouth. The sound gathered into waves, visible to the naked eye, spreading in all directions, and the calm lake surface rippled and fluctuated in an instant. On the surface of Yang Kai's body, source power emerged, resisting the inexplicable attack of the sound wave, popping out halos. Daoyuan second layer level. Yang Kai's spiritual sense swept over it, and he had an insight into the level and strength of this monster. And the strange beast, seeing that his sound attack was ineffective, seemed to be furious, and the dozen or so pairs of eyes shrank suddenly, and an invisible force rushed out. Yang Kai raised his eyebrows and shouted, "The power of the soul is comparable to the peak of Daoyuanjing." His expression was dignified, the sea of consciousness rolled, and the power of ferocious consciousness poured out, and it also turned into an invisible impact to meet the front. Boom! A loud noise came out, and Yang Kai's body was shocked, and he couldn't help falling back a few steps, and there was severe pain in his mind. And the strange beast also didn't feel better, its chubby body convulsed and trembled violently, its tentacles danced endlessly, and a tragic wail came out of its mouth. The collision between the divine senses is the most dangerous and unpredictable, relying on its own proficiency in the attack of the soul. This strange beast did not take Yang Kai into its eyes, so Yang Kai naturally couldn't show weakness to the enemy. He has the heaven and earth treasure Wen Shenlian, and he is not afraid to use the power of the soul to fight head-on with the opponent. In this confrontation, neither man nor beast could take any advantage. But Yang Kai has Wen Shenlian to dissolve the damage of his consciousness, so it only took a while, and he settled down. On the contrary, the strange beast was still unable to hold on to itself, shaking unceasingly, as if the collision just now had caused great damage to it. When Yang Kai saw this scene, how could he be negligent? A million swords appeared in his hand, the power of the emperor pervaded, and he turned into a Changhong, slashing forward with one sword. Chi 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 chi. A long sword rolled up thousands of sword lights, and shot towards the strange beast like a storm. Blood instantly stained the surface of the lake red. Under the pain, the strange beast howled out, and the dozen or so pairs of eyes showed a frightening look, and 7 or 8 tentacles flew all over the sky, intercepting the ubiquitous sword glow. Unexpectedly, Yang Kai failed to kill him with this blow. In Yang Kai's mind, this strange beast only has the strength of the Daoyuan second layer, but it can have the power of the spiritual consciousness comparable to the peak of the Daoyuan realm. Where to go? But that chubby body has extremely strong elasticity. When the sword light hit, a lot of sword energy flew obliquely along the surface of that brilliance, causing only a small amount of damage to it. However, the 7 or 8 tentacles dancing were not so lucky, they were directly cut into countless pieces, and scattered on the water. This time, it made the strange beast look even uglier, completely turning into a round ball full of eyes. As if aware of the crisis, the strange beast didn't intend to fight Yang Kai to the death, but sank directly to the bottom of the lake, and quickly dived down. HMPH. Yang Kai snorted coldly. He was also bold enough to rush into the lake, and chased after him along the way. The lake water is extremely clear, and there is blood flowing out along the road. Yang Kai is not worried about losing it at all. The lake is less than a dozen feet deep, and the further you go down, the darker the light, but Yang Kai's power and eyesight are not worried that he won't be able to see it at all. After a stick of incense, he followed the trail to a certain place at the bottom of the lake, looked forward, and couldn't help raising his eyebrows. I saw that strange beast was quietly staying somewhere at the bottom of the lake, and about 3 feet away from the bottom of the lake, there was an altar-like existence, and on the altar, there was an object. That's a bead about the size of a longan's eye exudes green light. The moment Yang Kai saw the bead, his heart skipped a beat. Because this bead is indistinguishable from the treasures he snatched from the Temple of Time except for its different color, even the size is as if carved out of the same mold. Could it be? Yang Kai suddenly had a vague guess in his heart, but he couldn't confirm it. At this time, the strange beast was standing there quietly, and the green beads were filled with dense green light, wrapping the strange beast. Under the protection of the green, the wound that was originally cut by Yang Kai, at this moment, it has completely healed, and no longer bleeds. Of course, the tentacles will definitely not be able to grow for the time being. No matter how powerful the vitality of this strange beast is, it will definitely not be able to achieve the magic of regeneration of severed limbs. This should be the most precious thing in the Winter Realm. Yang Kai looked at the green bead and thought to himself. Xiao Shuihua brought him here, and in this lake, apart from the strange beast, there is only this bead placed on the altar. It cannot be said that the strange beast is the most precious thing in the Winter Domain. Apart from this green bead, there is no second explanation. Yang Kai's arrival seemed to have alarmed the strange beast that was healing. It didn't need to turn its head, and a dozen pairs of eyes on its body had already found the trace of Yongkai. The next moment, it opened its fangs and roared continuously, full of threats, but unfortunately, it lost its tentacles, and it couldn't display anything decent at all. Killer move. It can only condense the power of the soul again, and blast towards Yongkai through those dozen pairs of eyes. Looking for death, Yongkai's face sank, and between the opening and closing of his left eye, the world-exterminating demon eye was revealed. In the golden pupil, a budding lotus flower leisurely took shape, disappeared from the eyes. The next moment, the strange beast stood still in place as if it had been immobilized. In its field of vision, the lotus flower that is about to bloom occupies the whole area, and the lotus flower blooms, with the power of its soul as its source. Although its spirit power is not bad, it was already injured in a frontal collision with Yongkai before, and now it has the lotus secret technique, so it is powerless to recover. After a while, with a soft bang, a dozen pairs of eyes on the beast's body burst open, as if they were squeezed out by infinite pressure inside. Yongkai held 1,000,000 swords in his hand, and the swords merged into one, turned into a streamer, and disappeared on the spot. When it reappeared, it was already behind the strange beast. In the round body of the strange beast, a huge hole appeared, exposing all internal organs. Yongkai made a backhand palm, the power of space was ups and downs, and he whispered in his mouth, "Exile." The deep black hole appeared, like the mouth of a ferocious beast, devouring the corpse of this strange beast, and when the black hole disappeared, only Yongkai was left in place. He opened his palm, holding a dark red inner alchemy on the palm. To be continued, this text is provided by the Breaking Dawn Update group at. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to vote for recommendations and monthly tickets. Your support is my biggest motivation. Mobile phone users, please go to read. Chapter 2175. Delete proportional. This is the inner alchemy of a monster at the level of Daoyuan 2nd level, and it is a monster that is proficient in the power of the soul. It is definitely the best raw material for refining the elixir that strengthens the soul. Yongkai put it into the space ring, and then strolled to the front of the altar. On the altar, there were no traces of restraints or formations, and the green beads were just placed on it. Yongkai confirmed it for a long time before reaching out to pick it up, which went smoothly unexpectedly. He released his spiritual perception, but he didn't feel any power fluctuations from this bead, and the source force poured into it, and there was no reaction at all. Everything was the same as another fiery red bead. He also didn't know how the strange beast used the energy in the green bead to heal himself. Immediately afterwards, he took out the fiery red bead, compared the two compartments, and found that it was indeed the same as what he had observed. The two beads were exactly the same size, but the color was different. After observing for a long time, he slowly shook his head. He couldn't deduce their specific use from these two beads at all, so he had no choice but to put them away. But when he put the green pearl into the space ring, a sudden change occurred. Although the lake was cold and showed no signs of freezing, at this moment, there was a crackling sound from all directions. It seemed that the ubiquitous severe cold hit from everywhere, and the lake began to freeze into ice. Yongkai's face changed slightly, and he quickly jumped up. When he completely got out of the water and looked down from a high altitude, he saw that the entire lake was frozen, and the sparkling scenery before was no longer there. It seems that it is because of the existence of that green bead, that the lake has avoided the fate of freezing. Yongkai speculated secretly, and did not know what kind of magical power was hidden in the green bead. The power can actually prevent the intrusion of the severe cold. After thinking for a while, Yongkai turned around and flew towards the shore. After he returned, Lu Yan just nodded at him and didn't say much, but Xiao Shuihua seemed extremely happy, dancing around Yongkai non-stop. "Go on," Yongkai said to Xiao Shuihua, and the other party seemed to understand Yongkai's meaning, turned around and flew in one direction. In the next few days, Yongkai has been tossing and turning in the winter domain. With Xiao Shuihua's guidance and search, any geniuses and treasures nearby would not be able to escape its prying eyes, so naturally they would all enter Yongkai's space ring. Yongkai's thinking is very simple. Since Emperor Hongqian pointed out that Qin Chaoyang should come to the land of 4 seasons to find the fruit of calamity and disaster, he would definitely not be aimless. In other words, there is definitely such a spiritual fruit in the land of 4 seasons, but he haven't found it yet. But as long as he is patient, he will always find it, and now he has Xiao Shuihua's help, so he naturally has a unique advantage. He secretly made up his mind that he would never leave the Winter Realm until he found the Fruit of Calamity, otherwise he would not be able to explain to Qin Zhaoyong if he left the Land of Four Seasons. To his disappointment, he obtained a lot of various spiritual herbs and wonderful medicines, but there was no trace of disasters, and many monsters were killed, but apart from getting some inner alchemy, he didn't even have a star seal get. As time passed, Yang Kai couldn't help but secretly became anxious. On this day, in the middle of an ice field, Yang Kai stood under a layer of ice, looking at a fruit tree that was crystal clear like ice crystals with an ugly expression on his face. This fruit tree is about the height of a person, and the leaves are like ice cubes, exuding a chilling chill. There is nothing on the fruit village, but at the position of a certain tree branch, there is an obvious trace of picking it off. Miscalculation, I was caught first. Yang Kai looked annoyed. This fruit tree is obviously a fruit tree with a lot of misfortunes and disasters. Under the leadership of Xiao Shuihua, he searched like a carpet. It took a full 10 days of effort, and Yang Kai finally found a fruit tree with a lot of troubles. But the fruit of calamity that should have existed above was taken away by someone. Judging from the traces of the picking, there should have been spirit fruits in this fruit village just a few days ago. Master, you have tried your best, don't blame yourself. Seeing that Yang Kai's face was not very good looking, Lu Yan quickly comforted him. I just want to know now, who took this spirit fruit? Yang Kai frowned. Although the calamity fruit is precious and rare, it is not widely used. Even if it is taken away by someone, it is not really useful. If he could find out who took the spirit fruit, Yang Kai could take out the corresponding treasure and exchange it with him. As long as the other party is not a hard-to-talk person, he should be very happy to make this deal. At worst, Yang Kai will give the other party something more. But the current situation is that Yang Kai doesn't even know who got the fruit of disaster. It is impossible for him to implement this method at all. In the winter domain, are there any fruit trees like this? Yang Kai turned his head and looked at Xiao Shuihua expectantly and asked. Xiao Shuihua's fuzzy facial features emerged, and she shook her head slowly. Yang Kai's last glimmer of hope was shattered. He sighed softly and pondered. After the Land of the Four Seasons is opened, warriors who enter it can stay in it for 33 days. When the time limit comes, they must rush to a specific location and leave the Land of the Four Seasons, otherwise they will be trapped in it when the time limit is up. Counting the days, it has been almost 20 days since he entered here, and he spent more than half of the time in the winter domain. Starting from here, it will take a few days to rush to the location of the exit, so there is not much time left for him. What's more, he has almost traveled all over the Winter Realm, and he already has more than half of the spiritual herbs and miraculous medicines in the Winter Realm. Now that the calamity has been preempted by others, it is useless to stay here. It's better to rush to the exit first, wait for the disciples from the major sects to return, and find a chance to inquire about the whereabouts of Jie and Nengguo. Maybe there is still a chance. Thinking of this, Yang Kai suddenly made a decision, turned to Xiao Shuihua and said, "Send us out of here." As the master leaving, Lu Yan's beautiful eyes flashed, and he asked. Yang Kai nodded. Lu Yan naturally has no objection, but Xiao Shuihua seems to be a little displeased. This lonely creature has experienced too much fun during this period of getting along, and it is naturally a little bit reluctant to part now. Yang Kai grinned and said in a provocative tone, "If you want, you can come with me." Hearing this, Xiao Shuihua's tightly wrinkled facial features unfolded leisurely, as if showing a joyful expression, but soon, it became restless again, showing no energy. Lu Yan said softly, "It can't leave the Winter Realm. It's different from me. This land is where it was born. Its roots are here. If it leaves here, it will perish in a short time." How could this be? Yang Kai was stunned. Lu Yan said, "If it leaves here, it is equivalent to me leaving my container. A tree without roots, water without a source, can't survive for long. Unless what? Yang Kai asked. Unless there is a similar environment in mysterious Shaoji, it can continue to survive. Lu Yan replied. Hearing this, Yang Kai immediately understood that his kidnapping plan had failed. He originally thought that he had mysterious small world and could place Xiao Shuihua there, but he was too naive to think. Thinking of this, Yang Kai stretched out his hand, held up Xiao Shuihua, put it on his shoulder, and said with a smile, "Don't be so sluggish, if there is a chance, I will come back to see you. Maybe I will come back next time. I can find a way to take you with me." Having said that, Yang Kai also knows that this kind of thing is basically impossible to achieve, and he doesn't know how many years it will take to open it again. Even if it is opened at that time, he may not be able to enter again. After all, by then, he might have already achieved the throne. But little Snowflower didn't think too much about it. It was just a strange thing born between heaven and earth. With a simple mind, she got rid of the depressed mood in a few words and became happy. It made Yang Kai feel very guilty. Starting from the ice field, it took 4 days for Yang Kai to see the Two Seasons Mountain. Although there were gains along the way, there were not many. But here, little Snowflower stopped moving forward. Yang Kai and Lu Yan bid farewell to him, and the pain and sorrow, don't mention it. After crossing the Two Seasons Mountain, Yang Kai went straight to the direction of the exit. Before entering the land of 4 seasons, the elders of each sect have told their disciples to rush to the exit before the deadline. And the location of the exit is also clear, the very center of the land of 4 seasons. So Yang Kai didn't worry about going in the wrong direction at all. After 3 days like this, Yang Kai came to a plain very smoothly, and at a very far position, he found the exit of the land of 4 seasons. The exit is the same as the entrance of the Nameless Valley. It is an oval light door standing quietly in midair. The warriors who entered the land of the 4 seasons can leave the land of the 4 seasons through this light gate at any time. But now that the time limit has not yet come, it is obvious that no warrior will leave early. And the situation was as Yang Kai expected. When he arrived here, there was no one there. Counting the days, there are only 5 or 6 days left before the time limit. Yang Kai didn't plan to explore other places in the 4 seasons land. He was going to stay here all the time, lest someone quit early and take away the calamity, but he didn't know it. While waiting, he was also thinking about what he should exchange with others if he really found out the whereabouts of Jay and Nangguo. There are countless valuables in his hands, but many of them are inseparable, such as the 5 Emperor treasures, which definitely cannot be exchanged for other things. He still has a few Daoyuan pills, which were not used after the last refinement, but this kind of thing is only useful for warriors at the peak of the Void King realm, and warriors at the Daoyuan realm level may not be interested. There are quite a lot of gains in the land of the 4 seasons, which may be available, but others may not be interested. After much deliberation, he put his mind on that drop of immortality liquid, and secretly felt that this thing was definitely a bargaining chip that no one could refuse. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to vote for recommendations and monthly tickets. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 2176. Soul Cleansing Water, Immortal Liquid, and Life Potion are listed as the 3 major divine waters. Among them, the birth of the soul cleaning water is quite a chance and coincidence. It takes a strong person to fall, and the power of the soul will not disperse. In the place of the fall, nature will be born to produce the soul-washing water. Although it is rare, it is not impossible. It's extinct. The remaining 2 are without exception, extremely hard to find treasures. That's all for Life Nectar. Perhaps in a hidden corner of this star world, there is such a thing, but no one knows about it. But the undead stock solution, there is no place to look for it at all. Because the undead stock solution is a derivative of the Tree of Immortality. It is the life essence of the Tree of Immortality. A drop of undead liquid is enough to bring back the dead, and it has extraordinary effects against the sky. In this world, the only immortal tree was planted by Yang Kai in his small medicine garden, so others naturally had no way to obtain the immortality liquid. The drop in his hand was left over from the time when he got the old tree at the beginning of the year, and he has never been willing to use it. Using such a heaven-defying treasure in exchange for a fruit of calamity, no one would refuse it. The only thing to worry about is whether there will be any other troubles after the undead liquid appears. But for the sake of misfortune, he can't control so much. If someone really asks at that time, he can pretend to be confused. I'm afraid no one would have thought that the treasure of heaven and earth, such as the Tree of Immortality, would be in his hands. Determined to pay attention, Yang Kai sat cross-legged and waited quietly. There are still about 5 or 6 days left before the warriors who entered the land of 4 seasons are not in a hurry to leave this place. They are probably still looking for their own opportunities in various places at this moment, so the vicinity of this entrance is extremely quiet. Time passed by, and a day later, Yang Kai was still the only one on the plain where the entrance was located, and there was no sign of other people. At a certain moment, Yang Kai suddenly frowned, opened his eyes and looked in one direction. At that moment just now, he actually felt a strange energy fluctuation flashing away. However, when he looked in the direction from which the energy fluctuations came, he didn't notice it, which made him a little suspicious, wondering if he had an illusion. While he was pondering, a halo visible to the naked eye suddenly appeared at an extremely far-away position. The halo is like a substance, spreading in all directions like ripples. Yang Kai suddenly stood up and squinted his eyes. In front of him, about 100 miles away from him, on the top of a high mountain, a halo of light continued to rise and fall. At first, it was just a halo of a single color, but as time went by, the colors are gradually becoming more colorful. Not only that, the aura of heaven and earth over there seems to be surging too. On the high mountains and in the sky, colorful clouds are surging, making the whole sky look weird. Natural phenomena, Yang Kai shouted, as the birth of a strange treasure. Although he didn't know what happened over there, judging from the current situation, there was definitely a strange treasure born, and it was an extraordinary strange treasure. Otherwise, it would have been impossible to cause such an obvious vision at the beginning of its birth. How could it be at this time? Yang Kai frowned tightly, his face extremely gloomy. Now there are only 4 or 5 days until the exit of the Land of Four Seasons is closed. As expected, the disciples of the major sects probably also started to rush to the loop. And the place where the vision is located is only 100 miles away from the exit. In other words, the vision of the birth of this rare treasure is very likely to attract many people, and the more time goes by, the more people will be attracted. At that time, there will inevitably be a lot of scrambling, and if it doesn't work, blood will flow into rivers. At that time, his plan to exchange the undead liquid with others for the fruit of disaster will definitely be interfered. So when he saw the vision of that day, Yang Kai's first thought was not excitement but annoyance. I feel that this timing is really bad for me. But even though he was slandering in his heart, the vision of that day was so obvious that he naturally wanted to go over to see it. Thinking of this, Yang Kai directly sacrificed the flying wooden boat, stepped on it, stimulated the source force, and turned it into a stream of light to shoot over there. The speed of the wooden boat is very fast, and it takes less than a dozen breaths of effort to reach the land of 100 miles, but as the distance approaches, Yang Kai smells a strange fragrance from between heaven and earth. Refreshing, as pleasant as a divine enlightenment. Is it a strange medicine? Yang Kai silently made a judgment, and this is also a strange medicine that can help warriors cultivate, because as the fragrance entered his nostrils, Yang Kai could faintly feel his Tao source. The bottleneck of the first layer shows some signs of loosening. It hasn't been long since he was promoted to the Daoyuan realm. Although he has been fighting constantly these days, he has also practiced hard, and he has gained some opportunities on the ladder of time, but there is still some distance from being promoted to the Daoyuan second-level realm. But now, this distance unexpectedly, it was flattened a lot at once, which shows how powerful the effect of this miracle medicine is. He couldn't help but wonder, now on this plane, he was probably the only one who arrived ahead of time. If there were no traces of other people, maybe he could monopolize this miracle medicine. This is really unintentional. After all, Yang Kai rushed to the entrance in advance, and his original intention was to inquire about the whereabouts of Jia Mi Nanguo. While thinking about it, Yang Kai had already arrived near the top of the mountain, cast a light behind him, stood on the wooden boat, and quietly looked forward. I saw somewhere on the top of the mountain, among the strange rocks, a budding flower stood quietly there. This should be a lotus flower. The unbloomed petals are pure white and spotless, the dazzling aura circulates endlessly on it, and the charming fragrance permeates from it. It seems that it is not real, it is blurred and enchanting. Not only that, but on the flower bone, there are some complex and mysterious runes the size of a grain of rice, looming and hidden, which seem to contain great mysteries. If you can comprehend them, you will get infinite benefits. Yang Kai's head shook wildly, and he let out a low voice, "This is." While speaking, he flipped his hands, took out a jade slip from his space ring, closed his eyes, absorbed himself, and checked the contents of the jade slip. The jade slips are exactly what Gongsun Mu left behind. Yang Kai has long remembered the things recorded on them, and he has memorized them fluently, but the things in front of him still make Yang Kai a little unsure. Only by comparing the contents of the jade slips can he affirm your own observations. In a short while, Yang Kai found the answer he was looking for in the jade slips. He opened his eyes flashed with excitement and enthusiasm, staring at the budding flower bone. He shouted, "Wonderful, Pauline! There is a record in Gongsun Muyu's bamboo slips. It is so wonderful, Baolian, which was born by adhering to the fate of heaven and earth, and was formed by absorbing the essence of the sun and the moon. On the day of blooming, the emperor's will permeates the four poles. If it can be refined into pills, the effect will be even better. In other words, this thing is something against the heavens that can elevate a warrior to the Emperor Senior Realm. Emperor Prestige Realm is already the pinnacle of Star Realm warriors. Except for a few almost extinct panacea medicines, there is nothing that can help warriors increase their chances of promotion. And too wonderful, Pauline is one of them. Moreover, it is completely different from the general spirit herb medicine. It fundamentally improves the warrior's understanding of the way of heaven and martial arts, and has an incomparable effect on the warrior's ability to condense his own emperor's will. One can imagine the great value of such a panacea. If strong people like Sha Sheng, Wucheng and others were allowed to get Tamiao Baolian, within 5 years, they would definitely be able to advance to the level of Emperor Senior Realm, and there was absolutely no possibility of failure. The Emperor Prestige Realm is the mainstay of every major sect, and the absolute backbone of strength. The birth of every Emperor Prestige Realm is enough to significantly improve the strength of a sect. If you think about it this way, this plant is too wonderful, the value of Baolian cannot be measured at all. Yang Kai's heart suddenly became hot, but soon, his face became extremely gloomy again. Because the plant in front of me is so wonderful, Baolian. It hasn't fully bloomed yet, so it can't be collected at all. If you start collecting it rashly at this moment, it will have a great loss of its medicinal effect. And even if it blooms completely, it must be taken or refined into a pill in a very short period of time, otherwise its medicinal effect will also disappear quickly. In this matter of heaven and earth, there must be gains and losses. The efficacy of the Tamiao Baolian is so heaven-defying, naturally there is a reason why it is rare. It is precisely because after it blooms, it will wither within 3 hours, and its aura will wither, which has achieved its almost legendary reputation. In this way, even if somewhere in this astral world, there is a wonderful treasure lotus blooming, if no one finds it within 3 hours, it will wither into mud and cease to exist. You have to find a way to cover up this vision of heaven and earth first. Look at this posture. It will probably not be able to bloom for a while. If it continues like this, it will only attract more and more people. It will be difficult at that time. Yang Kai muttered to himself, but when he looked up at the obvious vision in the sky, he felt powerless. If he is proficient in formations, he may be able to use the power of formations to do this kind of thing, but his understanding of formations is still at the level of violent cracking, which is not enough to provide assistance here. It is also impossible to bring it into mysterious Shaoji, it is too wonderful, Baolian cannot be picked before it blooms, and it cannot be moved, otherwise it will wither directly. As an alchemist, Yang Kai would not allow such a reckless behavior. For a moment, he anxiously scratched his head. And just when he was anxious, suddenly there was a sound of piercing through the air, and immediately after that, several figures galloped quickly from different directions and stood not far from him. There were 3 men and 1 woman who came, and the woman came with another man, while the other 2 were alone. As soon as the 4 of them showed up, they all fixed their eyes on Tamiao Baolian, and all of them showed expressions of surprise and shock. Only the woman who was dressed like a young woman casually glanced at Yang Kai, but after discovering that he was a Dao Origin 1 layer, she didn't pay much attention. To be continued. This text is provided by the Breaking Dawn Update group at Woai Xiao Hua Ti. If you like this work, you are welcome to vote for recommendations and monthly tickets. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 2177. These 4 people were obviously also active in the vicinity, attracted by the vision of the birth of the Tamiao Baolian. One of them was burly, with a calm and majestic expression, and he had the cultivation base of the 3rd level of Daoyuan. The other person is a young man with short hair, his eyes are full of thieves, and he seems to be thinking about something at any time. Companion, the woman is petite and exquisite, the man is suave and suave, the 2 look intimate, they look like brothers and sisters of the same sect, and the relationship is very good, the cultivation of the 2 is also at the 2nd level of Daoyuan. At this moment, the 4 of them were all amazed and staring at the Tamiao Baolian, with greedy expressions constantly circulating in their eyes. Seeing this situation, Yang Kai couldn't help but let out a long sigh. Although he had been mentally prepared for a long time, he knew that the vision of heaven and earth caused by the birth of the Ether Miaokonglian would definitely attract many warriors, but he did not expect that someone would come here so soon. And there are 4. It seems that there are still a small number of warriors active on this plane, otherwise they wouldn't have arrived here so quickly. Senior brother he, what kind of elixir is this? After observing for a while, the woman dressed as a young woman asked the man beside her softly, because she didn't recognize the species of the elixir in front of her at all, she only knew that it was a plant that was incredible stuff. Senior brother he heard the words, shook his head slowly, and said, I don't know either. While speaking, he even licked his dry lips, with an expression ready to move, but his eyes flickered, but he was extremely afraid of that burly man. After all, the other party's cultivation base is the highest here. In terms of medicine, the opponent is the biggest enemy. Brother Chengtai, do you know what this elixir is? At this moment, the short-haired young man suddenly asked the burly man, as if they had known each other for a long time. I don't know. The man who was called Chengtai replied in a low voice, squinting at the young man with the short hair, and said, Brother Bao, can't you recognize him? Bao Peng smiled and said, how can Bao recognize something that even Brother Chengtai doesn't recognize? You think too highly of me. HMPH. Chengtai snorted coldly, turned his head to look at the man and woman, and asked loudly, do you recognize the two of Liang sword sect? Hearing this, senior brother he frowned and shook his head slowly, and the young woman did the same. Then Chengtai turned his gaze to Yang Kai and yelled, that boy, you seem to be the first to come here. What is the name of this elixir? Tell me. I don't know. Yang Kai looked at a loss and said, I was just attracted by this vision. What a bunch of trash. Chengtai didn't wait for Yang Kai to finish speaking, he couldn't help cursing, I couldn't even recognize the elixir, but they all rushed over. His words scolded everyone. Brother he of Liang sword sect and the young woman frowned when they heard the words, and seemed rather displeased, while Bao Peng seemed to know Chengtai's temper well and didn't care. At this time, Chengtai said again, no matter what this elixir is, Cheng wants it. If you want to survive, you should get out of here quickly, otherwise don't blame Cheng for being merciless. Hearing this, Bao Peng raised his eyebrows and said with a half smile, Brother Cheng, this, isn't it good? Do you have an opinion? Chengtai looked at the short-haired young man with a serious face and snorted coldly, if you have an opinion, speak up boldly, and you will bear the consequences. The latter quickly raised his hand, took a few steps back and said repeatedly, Brother Chengtai misunderstood, you want this thing, how dare Bao have any opinions? It's just that the two of Liang sword sect will not agree easily, right? After all, there are natural panacea, and those who are destined to live in it. Hearing what he said, senior brother he nodded solemnly and said, that's right, spiritual objects of heaven and earth, those who are predestined and friends want it, it depends on whether you have the ability. Although Chengtai is a strong man in the third level of Daoyuan, there are two people between him and his junior sister. So he is not very afraid of the other party, not to mention, this kind of strange thing is in front of him, and he will not give in easily no matter what. The two of you are going to try Cheng's skills. Chengtai grinned when he heard the words, the smile was full of ferocity, and he said, I have heard that Liang sword art of Liang sword sect is mysterious, and I don't know why is it true or not. Today just happened to have this opportunity, let Cheng Mo experience the next two brilliant moves. While speaking, Chengtai's already burly body suddenly swelled up, and a shocking coercion suddenly spread out. He continued what he said just now, the two of you should not disappoint Cheng. At this point, he stepped on the spot with both feet, and a crack was opened in the void. His whole body was like a meteorite falling from the sky, and charged towards the two people of Liang sword sect with terrifying vigor. He actually raised his hand directly. Be careful, brother, he yelled in a low voice, turning his body around, leaving layers of phantoms on the spot, flying more than 10 feet away from the young woman. Rub rub, two soft beeps brought out two cold lights. The long sword was unsheathed, showing a murderous intent. Brother he and the young woman held a sword in one hand and made a tactic with the other, posing in weird poses. The piercing sword energy suddenly burst into the four poles. There should be a limit to looking down on people. Senior brother he shouted angrily, and the other party suddenly attacked him in a few words, which made senior brother he furious, with murderous intent in his eyes, and said to the young woman, Junior sister, don't show mercy. Don't worry, junior sister will let him feel the power of the Liang sword art. The young woman laughed lowly, and the long sword suddenly danced with Dao brilliance, and slashed towards Chengtai. At the same time, senior brother he also used what he had learned all over his body, and joined hands with his junior sister to kill him. At any rate, Chengtai is also a strong Daoyuan third layer, and he is also unruffled in the face of danger. With his hands wide open and closed, a frenzy of energy is rolled up, and he is 1 against 2, without losing the slightest advantage. In an instant, the three of them fought in a group, and they were fighting fiercely on the high mountain. The sword energy rushed, the energy rioted, and the battlefield was full of flying sand and rocks, and it was very lively. But the instigator of all this, Bao Peng, stood quietly and watched, without any intention of interfering in it. From time to time, he even showed a thoughtful expression, as if he had gained something from watching the battle. Hey! Suddenly, Yang Kai sighed, turned his head to look at a position, and said, "This elixir doesn't seem to be mature yet, so I collected it rashly. It's not good, what if it ruins the medicine?" Wherever he looked, there was no one there. The three people who were in the middle of the battle were all shocked when they heard the words. They all stopped, each withdrew from the battle circle, and looked at Yang Kai in amazement. Cheng Tai even frowned and glanced at Bao Peng, who was standing not far away. "I've said it all, you can't collect it rashly. My friend, don't you understand people's words?" Yang Kai shouted again, punching towards a certain position. When the energy was rushing away, a ghostly figure appeared in the empty place, showing an extremely shocked expression. The place where he was only less than 10 feet away from the Tamiao Baolian, and seeing him sneaking close to the elixir, his posture seemed to be trying to steal the elixir while others were not paying attention. Bao Peng. After seeing this man's face clearly, Cheng Tai couldn't help shouting angrily. But at this moment, another Bao Peng who had been standing there watching the battle suddenly turned into a streamer and disappeared. This is an extremely realistic afterimage. The real Bao Peng didn't know what secret technique to use, so he sneaked elsewhere. Bao Peng was beaten out of shape by Yang Kai, couldn't help but get angry at the crown, stared at Yang Kai viciously, and said, "The boy is looking for death." In his opinion, if Yang Kai didn't intervene, he would have taken the elixir and fled at this moment, but it was because of Yang Kai's existence that his Shijie fell short. Annoyed, he naturally flew into a rage. "I'm sorry." Yang Kai scratched his head helplessly. "If possible, I don't want to expose you, but your behavior is really unbearable, it's simply too bad." He spat. It might have some meaning for others to hear, but what Yang Kai really meant was that doing so would destroy the Emerald Treasure Lotus. It is still too early for the Tamiao Treasure Lotus to mature. How can Yang Kai allow it to be picked rashly? He pretended to be a fool to show weakness before, but he just wanted to delay the time. But now it seems that this plan is somewhat unworkable. "That's right," Cheng Tai yelled loudly, "I haven't seen you for a few years, Bao Peng, you are still so despicable." Even though Cheng has been careful, he almost fell into your trap. Although he was fighting with the two people from Liang's sword sect before, he didn't put all his strength into it. Instead, he put part of his mind on Bao Peng, but he saw that he had been standing there without any changes, so he fought with peace of mind. Who would have thought that Bao Peng standing there was just a phantom? The two of Liang's sword sect's faces were a bit ugly at the moment, but they were more curious, because none of the people present found Bao Peng's hands and feet, but they were seen through by Yang Kai. If it is not clearly felt that Yang Kai's cultivation is only at the first level of Daoyuan, everyone may think that this is also an illusion. "Brother Cheng, calm down." Bao Peng also quickly cast a flattering look at Cheng Tai at this moment, and said with a sneer, "Didn't I get caught without success?" "That's your bad luck," Cheng Tai snorted coldly. "If you were lucky enough, wouldn't you be running away with the elixir now?" "It's not a matter of luck." Bao Peng stared at Yang Kai with a deep gaze, and said coldly, "What Bao did just now was to escape the shell of the golden cicada, a secret of my Wuyun sect. Even those who can't see the flaws, it has always been an excellent secret technique to save their lives and escape. It turns out that the golden cicada escaped its shell." Cheng Tai let out a low cry. Obviously he had heard the name of this secret technique, and said with complicated eyes, "I never thought that Sect Master Qin would be willing to teach you such a secret technique." "This is not important." Bao Peng still looked straight at Yang Kai, and said coldly, "Bao is just curious, how can you see through my whereabouts with your mere Daoyuan first-level garbage?" To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to vote for recommendations and monthly tickets. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 2178 Unparalleled Consonants Ju. Thanks to the Lord Zhuang Shengshao, Dream Fan Butterfly A for rewarding 100,000 flying reds. I didn't see it until after the update was released in the morning. I can only thank you in this chapter at night. Thank you. Since entering the land of 4 seasons, Yang Kai has been called rubbish by others more than once. It's no wonder that he is dressed in a very ordinary way, and he doesn't have any unique symbols on his body, and his cultivation is only at the low level of the first level of Daoyuan. These elite disciples from various sects and families naturally look down on him. Daoyuan first level realm, in this land of 4 seasons, is the existence at the bottom. Unless you have a background like Lan Xuan, no one will look at you with admiration. Bao Peng naturally wouldn't take Yang Kai seriously. Facing his inquiry, Yang Kai tilted his head and thought for a while before saying, "I'm lucky, good. I said it's not a matter of luck, you really want to die." Bao Peng grinned grimly, his expression was extremely bad, his good business was disturbed by Yang Kai, at this moment he was naturally annoyed, and he wanted to smash Yang Kai to pieces. Thousands of paragraphs, a solution to the hatred in my heart. Your affairs, deal with it yourself, this elixir. Cheng will take it first. At this moment, Cheng Tai suddenly shouted loudly, stepped on his feet, and rushed towards the Tamiao Baolian. The 2 members of Liang sword sect were shocked when they heard the sound. It was already too late to stop them, so they could only chase after them through gritted teeth. And Bao Peng obviously didn't want to continue to entangle with Yang Kai at this moment, and he also rushed towards Tamiao Baolian with a flash of his body. Everyone just wanted to grab this elixir as soon as possible. A flash of brilliance flashed, and Yang Kai's figure suddenly appeared in front of Tamiao Baolian, blocking the way of the 4 people, and he looked at everyone helplessly. He said, "Everyone, this elixir is not ripe yet, so it's not the best time to pick it. If you move it rashly at this moment, you may waste this strange thing in vain. Why don't you all sit down and have a good chat? How about waiting for the elixir to mature?" "HMPH, what kind of nonsense are you talking about? Get out of the way quickly." Cheng Tai was unmoved, and shouted in a deep voice. "Please cooperate." Yang Kai looked at him sincerely. "If I say no." In a few words, Cheng Tai had rushed not far from Yang Kai. Swinging out the fist wrapped in berserk aura, he threw it at Yang Kai. Looking at that posture, he didn't hold back at all, he was only going to kill Yang Kai with one blow. He sneered sarcastically, "I don't know what the so-called thing is. Don't blame anyone if you die. I can't help it." Yang Kai muttered in a low voice, his originally peaceful face suddenly turned ferocious, and an evil smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. Looking extremely terrifying, he said, "Speak well, since you don't listen, then find something you can understand." Having said this, a radiance flashed on his palm. De Bao appeared leisurely. Emperor prestige filled the air, and Yang Kai swept across with a sword, cutting forward. He chanted in his mouth, "One sword, 1 million, one man guards the gate. Chi 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 chi." The sword energy is overflowing, crisscrossing the 4 fields, with Yang Kai's location as the center. The invincible sword energy shoots out leisurely in a terrifying fan shape, and the sensational coercion suddenly descends. The breath of death came head-on. "What?" Cheng Tai's face changed drastically, he had a disdainful and sarcastic expression just a moment ago. But in the next moment, he was like seeing a ghost in daylight, his eyes popped out. He stared straight ahead. "Emperor Prestige. This is Emperor Prestige. This is Emperor Treasure." Bao Peng also exclaimed in shock, and quickly performed a trick in his hand, and once again performed the untold secret of the Wuyun sect, the golden cicada escapes its shell. A realistic afterimage appeared on the spot, but I dodged it at the nick of time. The 2 senior brothers and sisters surnamed He of Liang sword sect couldn't believe their eyes. When the Emperor Treasure Million sword appeared, the Daoyuan level long sword secret treasure in their hands let out an uncontrollable cry of grief. The clanking continued, as if conveying an aura of fear and apprehension. And when Bao Peng's words were uttered, the faces of the 2 of them turned extremely pale. However, the 2 of them came from the same sect at any rate, they have been together for so many years, and they had a tacit understanding. In an instant, they made a tactic with one hand, and clenched the long sword with the other hand. He narrowly avoided this terrifying blow. Shish! The sword energy is vertical and horizontal, and the energy is surging. After the brilliance flashed by, the 4 people who had rushed towards Tamiao Baolian were divided into 3 positions, each of them was pale with lingering fear. Bao Peng showed no signs of injury, but the shock on his face revealed the shock deep inside him. The 2 of Liang's sword sect were fine, but the hand holding the sword trembled slightly. Cheng Tai was not so lucky. He was the first to bear the brunt. Even though he resisted desperately at the critical moment, he still couldn't completely defuse De Bao's terrifying blow. At this moment, there were 7 or 8 wounds on his body, bleeding gurglingly, and he looked extremely miserable. Now, can we have a good talk? Yang Kai held a sword flower in his hand, and looked at the 4 people in front of him with a grin. Cheng Tai and the others stared at him fearfully. I thought it was a garbage-like existence, but suddenly took out an emperor treasure that the world coveted, and even used a terrifying sword skill to severely injure the highest cultivation here. No one will believe it. Your Excellency, who the hell is it? Cheng Tai endured the pain in his body, looked at Yang Kai and asked. At this moment, how did he not know that Yang Kai is a guy with a very strong background? Otherwise, how could a mere Daoyuan first-level realm possess the emperor treasure? Together with this thought, he couldn't help feeling extremely jealous. Not to mention whether I still have the ability to defeat Yang Kai, even if I win the opponent, I am afraid I will have to worry about the revenge from the forces behind the opponent. Can afford to provoke 2 powerful forces. My friend, it was just a misunderstanding just now. I hope my friend, don't worry too much. Bao Peng suddenly showed a flattering expression at this moment, and said with a smile. Since it is a misunderstanding, there is no need to explain it. Yang Kai glanced at him leisurely and said with a half-smile. Bao Peng clenched his fists and said, Thank you, my friend. Bao has something important to do, so I won't bother you. Let's take my leave. After finishing speaking, he actually turned around and left the place directly, at an extremely fast speed. Looking at his back, Yang Kai showed a thoughtful look, secretly thinking that if this person didn't die young, he must be a guy who will become a big event in the future. It can be seen from the decisiveness of this person's actions alone that he has an instinctive judgment on the situation. He felt that he would not get any benefit if he stayed, and might cause danger instead, so he left without hesitation. Compared with Bao Peng, Cheng Tai and Liang Zhanzong seemed a bit indecisive. Because after seeing Yang Kai's methods, the 3 of them still had no intention of leaving, as if they still had an inexplicable hope in their hearts, hoping that their luck would go against the sky, and they could get the Tamiao Baolian. Cheng Tai was fine, he was seriously injured, and he was extremely afraid of the unwarranted forces behind Yang Kai, showing a posture that he wanted to leave but was reluctant to leave. But senior brother he of Liang sword sect is full of greed. It's just, his eyes stay more at the moment, but it's the million sword in Yang Kai's hand. After all, compared to the Tamiao Baolian who didn't know its purpose, this million sword was a genuine emperor treasure, and even more so, a sword-shaped emperor treasure. The Liang sword sect is a sect famous for its swords, and its disciples practice sword skills a lot. If they can obtain these million swords, their own strength will be greatly improved. This made him inevitably have many thoughts in his heart. Several, are you still leaving? Yang Kai looked at the few people with a half-smile. Cheng Tai pursed his dry lips and stood there without moving, but he didn't show any hostility either. He just mobilized the source force silently to restrain his injury from worsening. On the contrary, after senior brother he heard this, he suddenly turned his head and glanced at the young woman. When their eyes met, everything was silent. Beauty, a very strong aura emanated from the 2 people's bodies, blending and converging with each other, which suddenly increased the aura of the 2 people who had only 2 Daoyuan realm cultivation bases. Black hair, no wind, automatic, robes, hunting, high fighting spirit, filled the world. Senior brother he stretched out his hand, and the young woman placed Ruyi in senior brother Yi's hand with a tacit understanding. The moment the bodies of the 2 met, the already powerful aura climbed to a new height, and a halo of energy visible to the naked eye rose into the sky, like a pillar of the sky. At this moment, the 2 seem to be completely united as one, and they are no longer separated from each other. Wu Shuang Ling Shi Ju. Seeing this scene, Cheng Tai suddenly gave a low shout, his face suddenly became very solemn. After listening to his words, Yang Kai immediately understood that this Wuxuanglingxi formula should be a secret technique of Liang sword sect similar to double cultivation. The breath is connected together, so that the strength has been greatly improved in a short period of time. After performing this secret technique, senior brother Yi's whole temperament has undergone a great change, and he seems to have become extremely confident and arrogant. Holding the sword in his hand, he slowly drew a circle in front of himself, looked at Yang Kai coldly, and said, "Hand over the emperor treasure in your hand, and I won't die around you." As he spoke, the young woman did the same. Where the 2 sword tips flowed, there was a layer of sword halo visible to the naked eye. After the words fell, the 2 semicircles suddenly merged into one place, condensing into a circular sword mark. The clank of the sword seal seemed to contain great power. "Are you sure you want to do this?" Yang Kai was unmoved, just stood there, staring at the two of them peacefully, his eyes clear. Stop talking nonsense. Senior brother, he snorted impatiently. What if I don't want to? Then you can die. Brother, he shouted coldly. The long sword moved forward a little leisurely, and his movements were free and easy. But when the sword was pointed out, it aroused the aura of heaven and earth to go berserk, and the round sword buzzed and shot forward suddenly. Halfway through, the sword seal was divided into two, 2 into 4, and 4 into 8. In an instant, there were such circular sword marks all over the sky, covering a huge area of the world, giving people an illusion of inevitability. To be continued.